Oh, yeah. Got to love it. What is happening, everybody? Let's see. Oh, what have we got here? Nothing like it. Hope everybody's having a good day, or good evening, good morning, depending on where you're at in the world. I know we have quite a few people. We got people in Germany, got some people down under in Australia. We got people all over the place in the UK, here in the States. I hope everybody, like I said, had a good day. So, let's see. Trying to find my mind. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. Something to drink. My voice will get good and hoarse later on. But that's okay. It's all right. See, the usual suspects are in here. And Do Flamingo, what's happening? He said, Chris, love you. Much love to you folks. And he said, I have a bunch of questions I would love to discuss with you on the stream on the structures and get your thoughts. Not a problem at all. Anchor Point, good to see you in there as well. Good afternoon. Good evening, afternoon, morning, whatever you applies to you. Oh, let me see. What's the back way? What that was? Blue Flash, what's going on? Good to see you in there as well. Most structures are pareidolia, though. Yeah, it depends on what we're looking at. Let's see. Susie J says, hello, everyone. Hello, Susie. How are you? Anchor Point, again, he said, hello. Oh, hi. My day was good. Just working as usual. It's always fun. But at least it wasn't a Monday. And we have tomorrow off. So I can't complain. Although there'll probably be a bunch of things to do, but that'll be okay. It's all right, though. At least you got time to do it, right? Oh, yeah. It just feels good to get old and good and crackly. Ronnie Parker, what's happening? He said, bro, thrilled to see you anytime. Love the sounds. Oh, yeah. Let me see here. Ooh. Like my neighbor just went by with a Harley. Let me see. Oh, and by the way, Blue Flash, keep that in mind. Guess who came up with that word pareidolia? Give you 3 guesses. First two don't count. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things you can attribute to the mind, sees things, and it's like it's programmed to see certain faces and things like that. And I would agree with that 100%. But to me, like I said, when you talk about pareidolia, or they do, meaning NASA or anybody else, like I said before, when I see like what looks like the shape of a dog out in the clouds, that's a shape of a dog. Or, any of the things that sort, oh, that looks like a, Pinocchio, you know what I mean? You're seeing an outer edge of that. That, you can say that's pareidolia. Hey, it looks like a Santa Claus up in the clouds, or it looks like this up in the clouds. That's what your mind is triggered and programmed to say. However, when you see certain things that have, again, let's say there's 2 squares, a round circle in the center, and then there's other holes, and it's completely 90-degree angles, that's really not pareidolia. When you see that on, let's say, an outcropping of rocks in the distance, that's not pareidolia. That's something that does not belong there. So that's what you got to define when you say pareidolia. There's a big difference between saying there's a little stone behind that larger stone, and it looks like it's kind of up in the back of that. It looks like a little Martian looking out. That's pareidolia. That's, to me it is, because like I said, my brain's not programmed to see that. So I guess we can say that depending on, again, who's saying it. But to me, I've seen many people look at rocks and say they're actually, beings, or, and that's not what really, makes me say it's not. But here's the other thing too, is when we were talking the other day or yesterday too, like when I show you that photo of, 3/4 of a mile up in the air above the Martian surface, and people go say, I can see people walking around. You're not going to see that. If you can barely see the structures and they're small, what makes you think you're going to see people? And that doesn't mean that they're complete idiots. It just means maybe in their mind's eye, they're just seeing this, what looks like little beings, and that's them. My brain is just not programmed to see that. Again, I see structural, I see mechanical, but see, I've worked all my life either on cars or I was a tool setter for years, so on and so forth. Maybe that's why my brain's triggered to see these things, you know what I mean? And as opposed to what looks like little people or whatever, right? And Hatton's Muse, he said, so happy to be catching these live casts for a change, usually at work when these happen. Don't you hate that? I wish it was like, it'd be nice if you didn't work at all. You're like, oh, this is perfect. And I can do them anytime you want during the day and everybody catches it. However, most people work too. So it's kind of like, that sucks. And like I said, I only get 2 days off of the week, tomorrow as well as Sunday. And a lot of times I'm doing things like a lot of people have like Saturdays and Sundays off, which must be nice. But anyway, but they go out and what do? They're going to do shopping. You got to do this, do stuff around the yard. You got to do, you know what I mean? Clean house, whatever it is you want to do. Unfortunately, those seem to be the days to do it instead of relaxing, but so is life. Do Flamingo, he said, never a straight answer. Like I said, I like everything that NASA stands for. You know what I mean? Like, when, before they even started subcontracting, like people like Elon and stuff like that, new technologies, cutting edge stuff, trying to go out in space, so on. The only thing I don't like is the not telling of the truth and not forthcoming with the truth, right? So that would be my only biggest beef with them. Other than that, I have nothing against NASA. I mean, other than not telling the truth. And, everybody's like, well, you don't understand. It's the Pentagon not telling the truth. Wait a minute. Where are they getting their information, though? Now, obviously from some military people, but I mean, if they were to talk about anything like the moon, because they did show pictures, remember, like the blue little dots and what looks like these towers standing up, actually not so much towers, but little blue dots in the air above the astronauts. Where are they getting this information from? Let's see. NASA's the one that took the picture, supposedly Apollo missions. Okay. So what information got passed on and how much information can they say? And if they are regulated, who's regulating them? The DOD. So everybody's a puppet. Everybody's in bed together, holding hands. So it's kind of like you go, is there really one person to blame for this? Let me see. Kerry's goal, what's happening? He said 22:45 p.m. Okay, cool. Almost midnight for you, but yeah, I got you. Good to see you in there from Ireland. 100%, just about 100% Irish myself. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I want to make sure to forget anybody here. See, Jay's I'm going to say it that way, unless you want me to say it a different way, but you said 7:10 a.m. Southern. Okay. I'll be in and out today. Oh, great for you. Said I'll be out in and out today. Stuff going on. Okay. I got you. That's awesome. Duke Flamingo, you said, Chris, you literally make my day 100 times better. Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, and I know people have said this before, and I would agree with you folks 100%. Sometimes with all the craziness going on, sometimes you just feel more grounded when you're talking to friends and other people, talking about something totally different other than the garbage going on out there, whatever it may be, political, religious, that's a new one. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you want to like just unwind from it all, work and everything else. And I'm not sure, I'm sure a lot of you folks have heard this, but I'll tell you what, my heart goes out to anybody in Nepal. That's crazy, crazy weather and the water coming and drowning people, wiping out towns and cities. And it's just, they were saying it's kind of like a biblical kind of thing. And the way I seen some of these videos come through. I'm like, what? That is crazy to me. And my heart goes out to these people because I don't know how many people are missing now. And you hate to see stuff like that. Jerry Lane says, like, share, subscribe, support, and ride the Black Knight. It's merely a flesh wound. I got better. Nice. That's what we like to hear. Mark Anthony said, oh, nice. Back on today. I'm sure it's going to be good. Yeah, we're going to try to do it like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. And if I can, if I'm not working, because a lot of times it gets a little harder towards the end of the week, right? So if I can, I'll try to even throw in a video or whatever we want to do it. We can either do it live and do a live video. We can do anything we want to do, right? So again, it's got a lot to do with the input you guys share as well, because obviously I want to give you folks what you want. Because it'd be like me, I'd be like, God, I wish you would do this instead, and never get it. I see it. If they want to, you guys want half and half. You want just a live, the live hangouts, podcast type thing, or do you want, just videos? To me, I like the podcast only because you can, get to talk about many topics. So, which is awesome. Let me see. Zan, what's going on? Good to see you in there as well. I'll get back to some questions in a second here. The Flamingo, yeah, thousands of souls gone. And they were saying a lot of people who are from, tourists or whatever coming into the country and gone missing. I think at the time, just those alone were like 350 people. 250, 300 people. That's craziness to me. Third Eye Open, good to see you in there as well. Yeah, Kerry's Go. Yeah, you said the pictures from Nepal are horrendous. I've seen the videos, man. God. And here's the wild part, the one that shows it literally washing up over these giant buildings, and you see people just fleeing, and it just comes over, washes over that thing like it's some kind of, like it's a model on a table set. It was crazy. I'm thinking it's just going to come through between the buildings, right? No, this thing come up right up over it. I'm like, my God. Yeah, it totally blows my mind. I am, Zan. I am having a good day. No doubt. I hope you are too. Let me see. Kerry's Gold, you said, what's the background picture? That was something I picked. I found somebody had put this on there, and it looks like some kind of medieval guy on a horse here. And I'm like, is it like possibly like one of those cycles? Like we almost die off and then we start back off like this again, like in medieval times. And this you can see, which is like, thousands of years later, you can see what looks like one of our structures embedded in rock and everything else because, obviously over the course of time, the weathering and everything else. And that's what it reminded me of when I first saw that. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I was looking for another picture to put on there instead of the giant satellite dish. And I was like, oh, I got another one here. We'll use that. All right, let me see. Yeah, exactly. The Flamingo, you said the force of the water destroying houses, bridges. It was so sad to see people flee, and but it was futile. Yeah, I mean it's cool, to a certain degree where, we can help these people out. You know what I mean? Because there's going to be some kind of aid for these people, which is awesome. And obviously, if you can take part, now you do that. But to see these people, like you're saying, I mean, first time I seen it, I was just looking, I'm saying, okay, I just see people wandering around, and all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of people like scattering, like running in one direction, and you don't notice it until you see this thing come up over the back of the. I went, what in the hell? That was crazy. You know what I mean? That was just wow. It was bizarre. I mean, I was like, holy shit. And again, you hate to see that kind of thing. Marco Zalad, I guess it is. Greetings from Doncaster, Yorkshire. The Black Knight is intriguing, and I can see why there would be such a device. We got 3 going around Mars, and I've said that before too. I mean, there's 2 possibilities here. If this thing is 100% real, one, it was left here by some civilization, like you just said. We have, orbiters going around Mars, keeping an eye on, taking photos of it, this, that, and the other. Or, and then we have other satellites going way out in space. We got them going to different moons in the solar system. We got, all kinds of crazy things to monitor and see what's going on. Basically there are our eyes to see what's around or on that planet or moon. So yeah, which is pretty cool in itself. Or it was ours thousands of years ago. We put it out there and it's still out there today. Think about that. We've talked about this, many cycles. We're in the 5th, going into the 6th. Is it possible a first cycle? Like I said before, are we were we a lot more technologically advanced back in the first cycle of life? And this was ours. We were traveling to the moon, Mars, and everything else. Maybe throughout the whole solar system when it was a lot warmer, so on and so forth. We don't know. It's always speculative because we can't prove any of it. But it's just something to ponder. Like, I wonder if it is 100% true, and it is real. Nikola Tesla, like I said, he thought he was hearing Mars or there was some chatter or something like that going on, and he was thinking, when they supposedly discovered, I think in the 1890s, that it was that Black Knight satellite, and of course, this has, I don't know about grown, but it has carried on through the years, right? And now through the technology of all kinds of Facebook and YouTube, we get to see it more. But yeah, I mean, it's cool in itself. Like I said, I've got photos in there, and I was actually in a documentary with Billy Carson and several others. What was his name? Mr. Dolan there, and some other people there as well. It was pretty cool. In fact, I think I got it still up here somewhere. It's just basically like kind of like a trailer type thing, right? So pretty cool. Susie J, you said there has been more earthquakes over the past few months than I can remember. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's kind of like, well, let's just say this. There are people that believe right now that we're starting to go into an ice age. So the world is actually turning on its axis, which it does every season, right? We have the 4 seasons, it will tilt on its axis, stuff like that. But they think it's actually literally turning like, wherever you are now, you're going to be like, you're going to turn counterclockwise or clockwise, and you're going to be in a totally different area of the world, or not in a different area of the world, but in a different position. Meaning, let's say you live up in Michigan. Suddenly the world really rotates. The crust actually rotates. Now you're next to the equatorial region, where you'll be much warmer, and vice versa for the people who are very warm. They'll now be up in the colder regions. Whatever the way it goes. And they said that if this is true, this is the reason why, I think El Nino is going absolutely crazy right now too. So they're saying it's going to be kind of a harsh winter. If that was true, that would be crazy. As they said, if it was like an ice age, it was an ice age and all of a sudden the crust would actually pick up faster, that's when it gets really disastrous. It's kind of like the movie, 2012? Well, it literally would shift so fast that you'd have ocean just start sweeping, continents and everything else. And that would be like totally bizarre. It'd be like, good knowing yous. It's as simple as that. Because there'd be no way to hide. Of course, I do live in the mountainous areas of West Virginia. So maybe a little bit of, getting away from it. But everything else I know would be just completely wiped. So what would be the point, right? It's like, God. Anchor Point, you said, Chris, do you agree with the Bible and is full of UFO stories and the same in the Indian and Sumerian mythology? Yes. Like the Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, where he talks about these giant wheels and there's like these wheels within wheels. And where he talks about anyway, in those writings, of course they removed that, where he was brought up above looking down into the firmament. So he's looking down at Earth and in this giant craft. And he got to know these people very well. And they taught him agriculture, mathematics, different languages, so on and so forth. And like I said, he knew him by name. He got to know him so well. So between that and you got the Mahabharata, when you talk about Indian Veda texts and all this other stuff, um, absolutely. I mean, like I said, unless there was some, and I don't know what would trigger that, there's got to be something that made these guys think of this stuff. So either A, it won, and like I said, it happened, and it might have been passed down to them, or it happened during that time and they wrote about it and literally wrote it into stone, or they were just sci-fi writers back in the day, which wouldn't make any sense. I mean, I guess you can say, well, because here's the thing: if you were to think like back in the day, let's go back, 7,000 years, 10,000 years, and you're looking up at the sky, you're just going to think, ooh, this human might just come down and just land, and maybe there's people up there that can come down here. You wouldn't think of a spaceship. I wouldn't. But like I said, and I said this before, back then, if I'm sitting there walking through the desert, I'm making my way home because maybe I'm not walking across the whole desert, but I'm walking home and all of a sudden this thing comes out of the sky and just lands in front of me and people like me come out, I'm going to consider them gods. 100%. Like I said, they got gift of flight. So, yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. At least it's in their writings, right? Like I said, I mean, you just get into the Mahabharata, and that's just crazy stuff there. Talking about cities battling with weapons brighter than the sun, boom, 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 boom. And of course, there's certain parts of the earth where I'm trying to remember if it was you can tell where there's actually fighting going on. You got melted sand. I think, what is it, petrification? Not sure if that's exactly what it is. But literally melted sand, which basically that's what your windows are in your car. It's melted sand. But you get the idea. It's like certain sections are completely like glassed over, like melted, like there was some kind of big war there or something. I don't know if Ezekiel dropped acid, but imagine seeing what he described. You'd beg for electric shock. That's funny. Electric shock treatment. He's like, yo, what do you think we should call that anyway? Jesus. But, man, I believe a lot of that stuff. Vitrification, thank you. But like I said, to me, it was important enough for them to write about it, right? So it makes sense. Like I said, it's probably something that happened in their lifetime, so therefore they wrote about it. I would. It's not like you can broadcast it on your phone. Didn't have one back then. So what do? Next best thing. You basically put it into history, like a history book for yourselves, and you etch it in stone or Sanskrit, whatever it may be back then. Mimi, good to see you in there. He said there are also 3 conspiracy theories about man-made earthquakes. Absolutely. Let me see if we can. I wonder if I even got a file on that. I don't know if I do. But yeah, I mean, they can literally just heat up the atmosphere. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can interfere with if you got enough power to do it, that is. And you can literally heat up and make certain storms over other countries. You can make in other words, make the whole atmosphere unstable in different parts of the world. So there's all kinds of ways you can do this and never launch a warhead or lasers or any kind of weird weapons, right? You wouldn't have to do any of that. We'll just let the weather do the work. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not so sure that what happened in Nepal today, because the way they were talking, it was some kind of earthquake and it come out of the mountain, some giant landslide. And of course, you got ice, water, and everything else has come with it, just washed right down and took everything out going down that river. Oh, let's see. Let me see. Blue Flamingo, you said, have you compared any or a amateur ground shot of a crater against NASA's orbital image of the same one I have. And one was Tycho Crater, and the other one, I'm trying to remember what the other one was. It'll come to me in a little bit. But yeah, they would always pretty much be the same. The only difference is obviously closer to the ground, you're going to have better detail. And those are the ones you want because you want to try to bring out more detail. The worse the photo is, then you're not going to get the detail you'd like to get out of it. Like some of the parts of the photo we were showing yesterday of Pluto, some of that was raw haze. You got to look, again, beyond the any kind of obfuscation, right? You got to look in depth into the photo, not just at it. You got to look in depth because you'll see like what looks like something overlaid and you can see something behind it. And yes, it's not going to be clear. Like somebody commented yesterday saying, well, you're looking through blurry. Yes. And I explained prior to that you weren't supposed to see it. So do you expect it to be crystal clear? Not going to happen, right? And I don't expect to see it crystal clear. I would love to, but I'm not expecting that. Given ground resolution tops out about 1 kilometer, what could be the comparison actually catch? Well, like I said, more details, right? So, and I've seen things where there looks like these big blocks in the center of these craters with 90-degree angles. It's like, okay, I get the middle. You'll have like jagged rocks, little maybe small hill from what was left over. Because a lot of times they say these were lava bubbles that would come up to a certain point and then implode back in themselves. And this is what you see. This is the reason why you don't see too many craters from like different meteors or whatever coming in different angles. It always looks like it's just straight onto it, which is bizarre in itself. But you do occasionally, I think somebody caught once or twice I've seen this, where it looks like something came along to the moon and just bounced literally off the moon and right back off the other side. It's like skimming a rock over water, right? Same difference if it comes in that kind of angle. Now, if it was to come in dead straight into it, well, it's going to leave a good-sized crater, right? But, yeah, I mean, the closer the photo, the better. Like the LRO is similar to the MRO on Mars. It's approximately 3/4 of a mile off the lunar surface, just like the MRO, is off the Martian surface. So you get the best quality photo without getting too close and taking a chance of crashing the satellite, and yet, it's close enough to get decent detail, or at least fantastic detail, and we get the watered down version of it. You know how that goes. Steve Garnham, what's going on? Good to see you in there, brother. Glad you made it in there. Zan, you said, Chris, those up-close images of the ground around our Aristarchus crater, are interesting. That's one of the ones I was talking about. And I'm not sure if it was that one at the time, because I have several different craters, like I said, Tycho and Aristarchus. But there was, I think it might be that one where it actually had these big blocks right in the center of the actual crater. So satellite view way out, can't see a whole lot. The further in, the better, obviously. We are going to look, we can if we want to, Metalhead. Good to see you in there, brother. I'm going to do the Black Knight satellite. We're going to look at this here, and we have to be, forthcoming in actual facts, right? So, and now I'm going to break that down for you. And I've done this before, so anybody who's been with me, they're going to go, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, I remember this." Because a lot of people want to make up all of these things, all of these shots that you see from the STS missions. Oh, that it's all of the Black Knight. It's not. But there are a couple. And what they're trying to do is mix it up. Like, see, even this photo here, which it is not, is the blanket from the it's basically a blanket over the trunnion pin. We've talked about this, and we'll go over that briefly too. Let me see. Dude Flamingo, you said, do you think politics, sports, and everyday drama function as distraction, keeping people from looking at a bigger picture of what's really going on? I do. Well, and it's not that we already know there's a whole bunch going on going on in the world right now. That's, if you watch enough TV, you're distracted, right? Whether it's news. I don't watch a whole lot of news. I'm not saying I don't want to be in the know, but there's so much negativity on the news that you're like, you know what I mean? I'd rather not. Rather go outside and watch grass grow. But I mean, don't get me wrong. If I want to hear the weather, I can just ask. I can look it up. I don't need to hear the weather, not the weather, but the actual news to go, oh, more bad news, good. But I end up hearing it or seeing it anyway through social sites. But yeah, I think a lot of people, I think some people, if you showed it to them, like, hey, this is what I've been watching, you ought to check this out. They may go, hey, wow, I'm intrigued with it too. Let's do that. Let me start doing that myself. Then that's different. But most people, like I said, most people are just get up in the morning, they have breakfast, shit, shower, and shave, hit the job, come back home, watch their little sitcoms, eat some bonbons, go to bed, repeat the next day. Not a care in the world. You know what I mean? And to me, I'd want to know more. It's like everybody should be like a sponge and learn something new, or just want to just be intrigued by something. I don't care what it is. It could be any topic, right? But that to me this is just wild. And like I said, to me, it just shows that we're part of something much larger. And that to me is awesome. It is. Oh, they just jumped up in here. Hold on. Let me go back. Great for all. You said the annoying thing is that there are people in the world that actually know what's going on. Any reptilians in the chat? Adam Moose said, agreed to, it's all distractions. Well, again, it's like some people are not in the know because they're not curious enough to want to, look online and investigate it, because it's not something that just intrigues them. Now, if you want to talk about online sports or things like that, nothing wrong with that. But the average person doesn't get into this. And I've said this before. Just ask any of your best friends or your family that you haven't seen in a while, or you say, hey, what do you think about the new photos from Curiosity Rover, or, whatever, and ask them, what? And they really don't know. I heard something about it. I just not sure. Nothing. Zippo. So is it their fault? Not really, unless they get introduced to it. Now, don't get me wrong. On the news, they've been talking about UFOs from the Pentagon and this and that. So maybe it started a fire and intrigued a few people, and they've been wanting to look online and find about more of it, but not a whole lot of people. They just go, okay, this is what I'm talking about. I don't think people would be freaked out if they would have let out some news that there might have been living civilization on Mars. Maybe the moon, they might get a little more freaked out because it's such a close neighbor. It's our satellite to our Earth. So they might go, okay, I'm a little nervous. And say they're here and gone. Wink, wink. So I don't know. Robert C., good to see you in there. He said, what the hell, I'm late. Actually, not really. We got on there, I guess it was about 20 till, right, guys? Terry Kelling, good to see you in there as well. He said, hey, hi, Chris. It's good to have the live chat back. Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, like you said, at Moose, he said to stop questioning. Yeah, because most people, just like I said, they're just humdrum world, no big deal. I want more than that. Gene Boussier, was good to see you in there. He said, it's really not news anymore, Chris. It's propaganda, point blank. Yeah, I guess in a sense, yeah. Jason, what's going on? McVee, Ove. Check that Weather Rock. Weather Rock, where is that at? Why does it sound familiar? Thomas Stone says, hit like and subscribe. Absolutely. Thumbs up, folks. Mimi, you said, my mother believes in the reptilian. See, I've never been a fan of that. Who's the one that brings that out? He was talking about that most of the time. Some of you guys will tell me. Trying to remember his name. But he's the one that's really hardcore on this reptilian thing. I'm not saying that it cannot exist. They cannot exist. Because if they're from another world, or they're from our inner world, meaning inner Earth, is it possible it could very well be a variation of us somehow mixed in with some kind of, reptiles or something like, I don't know. It seems to, in my mind, and I'm being honest, it seems a little far-fetched. I'm not saying that they couldn't exist, just in my mind. But you can't always expect anybody from, let's say, outside our solar system to look identical to us. So is it possible they could be like reptilians? Absolutely. Just in my mind, it's kind of like you stumble on it. Like, is that possible? I guess it could be. Oh, what's his name? It just came to me. Ike. That's his name. David Ike. Yeah, there you go. That moose. David Ike. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just not a big fan of him. Booth of Eternity. Good to see you there. He said, my granddaughters wouldn't be shocked. They'd accept anything real. There you go. And again, and I've always said this, it's like, a lot of people want to believe in a lot of these things. Just make sure you don't throw caution to the wind. Do your own investigations. Make sure you come up with the exact or right answers, as opposed to, it's just a cool concept, I'm just going to roll with it. Nah, you can't do that. I mean, it's still cool, because some of the stuff is just for entertainment purposes anyway. But there's some people, like I said, there were some channels out there. In fact, I went on a couple of the channels and said, show me the link to this. This is what I was telling you about, where they had what looked like a busted up skyscraper just laying on the Martian surface. I went, oh God, listen to this. So when I asked them, can I have the link to that? Not going to get it. Or somehow my comment disappears, because the last thing I want to do is be called out. So, yeah. Exactly. Steve Carnaby said, you don't have to be intelligent to look like us. That's a fact. Okay. All right. Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about now, Jason. He said, the weather rock was something I saw at truck stops in the 70s with my parents. If the rock is wet, it's raining. If white, it snowed, etc. No, novelty thing next to the nut logs at Stuckey's. I think I know what you're talking about now. Okay. All right. I guess it was another Mimi. But anyway, you said, I am always sus because AI is running the whole thing. And this is the reason why I try to stay away from it as much as possible. And remember, we were discussing this, and I was looking at some of the AI, and I had a photo that I enhanced, and I have the stock photo. This is what I was talking about. When I did it, I said, okay, here's the stock photo. Here's my enhancement. It didn't change much as far as the basically using contrast and everything to bring out what was in the actual photo, meaning untouched, and then enhancing it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to use the original one. And it was a moon photo, by the way. I said, I'm going to use the original. I don't want to doctor it up. I want AI to see it. And if it can improve, I said, improve it. And it was an astronaut with the lunar buggy. It made it look better as far as brilliant. The colors on because it's like have an orange fenders kind of thing on the lunar buggy. Whites, everything else came out brilliant, looked better than the original. I said, perfect. So when I jockeyed back and forth, here's where the problem started. Suddenly there was like little hills and craters that changed. They either disappeared, or suddenly they were introduced. Or there was like little tiny rocky hills in the background. They no longer were there. They either shifted, or they were smaller, or they were gone. I said, this is the reason why I don't want to use AI. I don't want it. And I will stay away from that trash. Now, don't get me wrong. I will try it and it's because it's different ones I'm trying. If they are keeping the exact photo without taking away the detail, I'm okay with that. I don't want to smooth out. Let's suppose something's in the rocks and it's jagged and it's broken off. Let's say a piece of wood. We're just going to throw that out there. There's a piece of wood out there, right? And it's just like a little piece of it, and it's jagged all the way down. Suddenly you put AI to it. Now it's smooth. How does it help you? It's now hiding what's really there. I don't want to do that. I want the actual raw photos. Now, they're okay to take noise out, stuff like that, but then in the process, they tend to change the photo. I don't want to do that. Hillbilly Tarzan, good to see you in there, man. He said, unless we can prove it, he's not going too far. Do you know how many people think the same about us? This is true. And that's fine. But yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Known password, you said orange orbs, man. Orange orbs. Now, there's been people, we were just talking about orbs and stuff like that in different photos. People seeing it like on their cameras coming off. Like I seen one that was like somebody's driveway, and it showed an orb come around their garage and came around and then right by it. So is it some kind of weird firefly that's staying lit, or is it an actual orb? Because it did, in fact, look round, right? What was it, the First World War, where they seen these orbs flying around their prop planes at the time. They were just props flying around them. I don't know if that was Germany. Guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is the reason why they came up with Foo Fighters. That's what they called them. Funny enough, we have a group named that. But anyway, that's what they called them, the Foo Fighters. And they were literally made them look silly. They're flying around them like it's not even a big deal. And they're just, can we get these things? Not going to happen. But these things just flying everywhere, right? Third Eye Open, you said, I only use AI to make digital art. And that, I would say, that would be a perfect application for that. I would agree with that. You know, like I said, but you would be real to say, if I'm trying to find something in a photo, and I don't care to try to clean it up, but again, sometimes you can make something out of nothing, and that's the last thing I want to use. And I know a lot of people like that. You know, there's just a lot of people just go, I refuse to use that stuff. I want raw photo. Yeah, man, Hillbilly Tarzan, exactly. I missed you too, man. It's been a while because we have, you know, it's like there was a while in between where we weren't really doing any videos. And like I said, I had my dad pass on during the Artemis missions. That's why I think I made one video. And then there's some time in there just working and doing my thing. And then, of course, it kind of fades by. And the next thing you know, you're forgetting about it. If I showed you guys the dust on this on this desk, is crazy. I mean, it's not like it's built up like this all, but it's just crazy because I haven't had a chance. In fact, I got junk all over the thing because I was like, I just put stuff down, take it out of your pockets, throw it down in there. I'm like, yeah, I probably should clean this up. Because this is a couple of years back, I showed my whole bench and it's got all kinds of crazy stuff on it, good stuff. But, and then the one behind me is my radio bench, which all receives everything and just my receiving station, I call it. Susie J, you said, Chris, I was a photo forensic for 31 years, now retired. Keep doing what you're doing. Continue showing the facts and stating the truth. Okay. And, you know, like I said, Susie, you were here when I was talking about that other person that sent me that photo. And they asked me they said, I'm going to send you a photo. And you guys have already heard this. But anyway, I was like, okay, what's that about? And they said, what we're going to do is I'm going to send it. I'm going to see if you can find out what's in this photo. So I'm thinking they're going to do a real sloppy job of this, right? Okay. Just give it to me. Let's see what we got. I looked at it. I said, I don't think there's even anything in this photo. I said, oh, don't worry. I'll work my magic. It looks like something you would see on Mars. So I'm already in my mind what to do to the photo. Did it up, finished it up. I said, yeah, this is what it looks like. And I gave it back to him. And he goes, oh my God, that's spot on. That's exactly, here's the original. He showed me the original. It was the same thing. I was like, okay. He said, you're 100% legit. And he did everything he could. I'm telling you, I'm going to be honest with you guys. What we see NASA doing, he actually went probably another 15 to 25% more obfuscation. He said, if you can figure out what's in this photo, you're 100% legit. I said, okay. I may fail it, I may not. I don't know. But again, it depends on what kind of photo it is. If it's a moon photo, we got different ideas how to attack the photo. If it's something to do with Mars, we got filtering, meaning color filters, obfuscation, and everything else. Moon stuff, you got a lot of brighted areas, kind of like Pluto was. Brighted areas, you got to try to bring this stuff out. It's not going to be clear. And you try to bring it out. So there's different ways of going about these photos. So when he sent me that, I was like, oh, this is supposed to be like Mars. Okay, I got you. So when I started going through it, I was like, yeah, this is what I got. And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what it was. because it's been years. It's been years now. I'm going to say, like I said, I think it was like 6 to 10 years ago when I had done that. So I don't know exactly what the object was, but he's like, yeah, dude, you're spot on. Here's the original. I went, oh, damn. So, yeah. I appreciate that, Gene Borsier. And uh, somebody else said it too about my dad. I appreciate that. Hillbilly Tarzan. James Cragen, there he is. Somebody must have said, hey, get your butt on there this time. Yeah, no, you're not dreaming, I promise. She says, oh my God, I hope I'm not dreaming. Please tell me this is real. Boom. Hello, Chris. Great to see you back. Yes, yes, yes. Hello, Steve Gottam, and hello to all of the truth seekers here tonight. Good to see you there, James. Been a while. Great for all. You said, when I was younger, there was a TV show that got me thinking, for example, V and Sliders. Seen them both. They're actually good shows. Remember that in the beginning? Sliders. Hold on. Sliders. Put on more echo into it. But yeah. And Moose. I hope I'm even pronouncing that right. Been watching you F with photos for over a decade. You most certainly are the real deal. And like I said, and I always tell people this. Some people ask me, how'd you get started? And I said, I watched a couple of videos. There's one guy from the UK. He hasn't been on for years. And when I seen him showing these photos, it blew my mind. And also my buddy Will from What's Up in the Sky. I was watching him one day, and he's the one that actually got me. I was thinking, oh my God, do I really want to go like on here? Like, you know what I mean? Because you're like, you don't know what to expect, right? So do I want to show my face? Do I want to get into, let's just jump in both feet. And like I said, he was going over these photos, and it looks like stuff that's intelligently made, right? So I'm going, and that's what I said. I stopped and went, wait a minute, how does he not see this? So there's like this, like I said, this rock. Let's say it's like this big. It's kind of a normal rock, you would say, right? And you can see what looks like a white rectangular block inside it. I'm like, what the hell? So as I went around, and I went around, I panned around, you can see-through rocks. I went, what? There's no way. There's no way. So that's what I knew. I didn't know what people were calling it at the time, but I said, how do you have see-through rocks? Unless it's diamonds. But I mean, how do you have see-through rocks? Any kind of crystal, anything like that? But there's no way. So then I heard people using rock mimicking software. And I was like, okay. And I looked this up myself and I said, okay, it's a thing. At least not officially, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm like, okay. And, you know, when I seen it, then I decided I got to get into these. I got to find out if I'm just dreaming or this stuff's actually there. So some of the videos I've seen in other people's recordings, I saw them and I said, I'm going to prove them wrong. I think they're wrong. They weren't. But they never dug into these photos, and that's the problem, because there's so much more to see. I mean, you can see different shapes and stuff on the landscape without doing anything to these photos, but the real prize is when you rip these photos apart, that's when you start to see the good stuff. Atten's Moose, okay, I got you. And you said, I really miss What's Up in the Sky. Yeah, I don't think he's doing any more videos. I got to see how he's doing. You know, like I said, we're friends on Facebook, so I need to see what he's doing there, you know. Mimi, you said some good fake news. Sorry, fake videos. My favorite is the Mars rock with tentacles coming from under, and it got over 1 million views. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And here's the wild part. I took that very same photo, enhanced it. It's not what it. It's not. That's not what it is. It's not. But again, it's very easy to do that, to get people to go, oh my God. And of course, people jump on board. It's about this. Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody here, including myself, would like to make a little extra cash. Nobody has a problem with that. But if you're doing it and you're just faking it just to get the views, that's not cool. You know what I mean? if you get them because you're doing a good job, I don't care what it is. Let's say somebody's on here and says, I got a channel and I do small engine repair. And you're just fantastic at it. You deserve, if you're getting views and everything else, you deserve to get monetized and get money for doing it. You're putting in the work. You're literally maybe teaching people things at the same time, or they're intrigued by what you do, then yes. It's kind of like you're performing a service, although you're not, but you know what I'm saying. I don't know if it's John Shea, but it's good to see you in there, man. It's been a while. Hello, Chris. Best wishes to you and your viewers. Hope everyone is well. I'm well, John. I hope you're well as well. Ross Bryant, Michael Ritter. Yes, thank you. Michael, I was going to say Ritter, but I couldn't remember his first name. But Ross Bryant, yes, is Michael Ritter. He had some pretty cool little videos, and I don't know if he's taken them all down, at least most of them. And, a lot of people just laughed him off the screen, man. They said, oh, that's BS. But now people are seeing what the Pentagon's showing, and I go, well, maybe this is not totally far-fetched. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I think Michael was actually ahead of his time. He was showing stuff a lot of people weren't even seeing yet. In fact, there was one that had what looked like almost looked like a giant bullet type thing, just a round top to it though. Just on there, and it had like these pieces coming off, like on the base of it. And it was right there on the ground. You really didn't have to do anything to it to actually see it, except maybe get the color off of it. So you can see more natural colors and you can actually see it. It's not really obscuring the actual object. Celtic Reader, he said, what is the cool image in the background? Is that, no, somebody had made this, and I guess it's just supposed to be like Earth gone past, meaning it's like had probably some catastrophic event, and this is what you see of the space shuttle with its rockets and everything else, and what looks like a medieval guy sitting on a horse there. Of course, my head's in the way a little bit. Let me see here. Let me just bring this down here a bit, maybe. And you can see him now, right there. So, yeah, I mean, really, really cool. And we were talking about cycles. We're in the 5th, going to the 6th cycles kind of thing. Was that something that happened in a cycle? In other words, one passed, had a catastrophic event, and now this guy is where he is now, almost back to the medieval type and knocked way back in time kind of thing. But, yeah, when I first saw that, I said, that is neat. That's a cool picture. Let me see. This thing just jumped on it. You just go down to the bottom here. At Moose, you said, but that tentacle thing does look like some sort of fossilized sea life, and it is in the area that was found and supposed to be an ancient seabed. I think it was. I wouldn't swear to it, but I think it was. The problem with it is that was enhanced to look like that. That's not the original. So when you do enhance it properly, it didn't look anything like that. Now, I'm not saying that, because if you remember correctly, one started off and it looked similar to that. And then it was like really over embellished, and it somehow got larger in there and everything else, and the tentacles got longer. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? So I didn't believe that. Now it did have something in the rock, but it wasn't what you saw. You know what I mean? It's not what they were pulling out of it. You know what I mean? Now, is it possible there could be some kind of, fossil in a rock? Sure. In fact, I think it was. I don't remember if it was a Curiosity rover, and I remember somebody saying this about NASA, where they had what looked like some engraving or some kind of weird thing in a rock. And what they do is they use the grinder that it has on the end of the tool arm, literally just zzz, and just ground it right off. So they were like, what's going on there? So I don't know if it was actual engraving or something like that, but they were blaming NASA for that. Don't know how true this was. I remember seeing it and looking at the picture. I'm going, yeah, it was ground off, like the face of it. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. Marina R., good to see you in there. So greetings, everyone. I haven't even been here for a while. Yeah, you haven't. Good to have you back. Great for all says, only 4 thumbs up. Come on, guys, hit the thumbs up. Whack that bad boy. Let me see. I think I'm going to start saying me. Only because I'm going meme. Is that better? Because we have another Mimi. That's why I'm kind of messed up here. I'm an open-minded skeptic, but it's hard not to pick out the fake. True, yeah. And especially with the AI, right? So you don't know. You're just like, so is that real or not? I'm going to put this back up here again. So yeah, it's hard to tell in this day and age. Everybody's like falling for this crap. But now here's the downside to that. You can make things look realistic. The problem with everybody believes it's all AI. Everything's AI. How many times you got, I can't believe my AIs. That's a popular line now. The sad thing about it is you could have something totally real. Oh, it's AI. Everybody's like, it's AI. That's not what that means, guys. I don't know. Yeah, Steve Garner, he said, no Ricardo tonight? Yeah, it's funny, he had Ricardo. He said, I told James to jump in there. I haven't seen him or heard from him. Now it's the other way around. James is swapping him with him this time. I'm going to take Ricardo's place, which is nothing wrong with that. Again, it's always good to see James. James, it's good to see you in there. Chris, did you see that Trump had what? Did you see that Trump has got over $1 billion or more up to the Star Wars project upgraded to now so-called Golden Dome? Yeah, I heard about this. Again, this has been like this Star Wars project, and I said this, and it's funny you bringing this up, James, because we were talking about this. I think what we have now, because we have the space program or the Space Force, and that's just a continuation of it, and which I'm okay with. But what's funny about it is it's like they're like, well, we're using this, obviously it's defense of our state, and they can look at other countries. I don't think it's just for the Earth itself, right? I think it's for turning it outward towards space. Now that could be used in several ways. One, we got a rock coming towards Earth, we can blast it. Or is it much more than that? If you have a series of things around the planet with high-powered lasers or whatever that can slice through anything, then any force that comes our way, if you know what I mean, extraterrestrial, we can defend ourselves. Let me see. Let's see. Marina R. He said, and by the way, my friend is looking for voices for his mini-series he creates using AI tools. One of the mini-series is the first embers about Mars colonies when something goes wrong, unpredictable. Okay. That's interesting. That's cool. Thomas Stone, you said, I remember 2 guys from NASA saying that there are trees growing near the North Pole. They were saying that there's other pictures out there, and I've done one too, which looks like tall trees but very narrow, kind of like a pine tree. And you can see like bunches of them in the area. And again, if you were to take away shadows and darkness, meaning the edges of these objects, and you take away shadows and any of that, it suddenly everything looks kind of flat and 2D kind of thing. Bring the stuff back with the original shadows, the defined lines, the details. Suddenly everything's 3D and really pops. That's the key to it. You want it to look as natural and real as possible and not 2D. Neutron 7575, what's going on? Good to have you in there. He said, "What's up, Chris? Glad to see you back." Well, glad to be back. It's always, like I said, it's been a while since I've been in here. I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing the live feeds. I like them better. And the fact is, again, it takes away from the just humdrum kind of thing going at work, monotonous kind of thing going on every day. It's good to be able to get in there. And like I said, everybody else gets to chat with each other. So it's a nice little hangout. We get to chat back and forth, us as well as you folks. It's nice. And we get to share all kinds of crazy stuff. Steve Garner, he said a space program within a space program. Well, I'm sure there's different categories or subcategories of these programs. Wouldn't surprise me. And I think there's a lot more going on, and we're just not privy to it. That's why you have to depend on people like Luizondo and all these other people. Again, I'm going to show you a quick video. This is hilarious. And we were talking about this yesterday. We were saying that they're the only people like Rush or Roush, whatever his name is, Elizondo, who talk so much and say absolutely nothing. I seen this. I'm aware of this. And look at me. I'm a big dude. I'm just cool. But you're not showing anything. So for me, it's a hard no. I don't believe it. You know what I mean? Let me see if I can even find this thing real quick. This is cool. Was it that one? Okay. Let's put that one there. There. Oh, this is that video. I just said this. This is crazy. I don't know if it's Gearong China or what it is, but Nepal mudslides. Right, that's crazy. But you see here. Trying to find. Okay. Okay, here we go. It's different laid out on this as opposed to. Oh, I want that. I don't like the way this is laid out on the PC. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Okay, this is hilarious. Like, it makes me laugh when I see this stuff. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. I'm going to show you the screen here. Make this much smaller. Lou Elizondo bombshell. Monolith structures have been photographed on the moon with a public release possibly imminent. Oh my God, guys, you see that? That's crazy. Again, I don't know what the hell happened to him. He looks like he's gotten thinner and whiter beard and everything else. Craziness. But Let's hear this. It's very short. It's only like 30 seconds. See if this will play.
What appear to be.
Let me see. I don't want this too loud.
There's also photographs that I don't believe have been made public yet that show on the lunar surface what appear to be large monolithic structures with right angle cuts that appear to be on the lunar surface. And I believe those photographs, if they have not been released yet, may be released soon. But they are certainly very intriguing looking at these objects from space.
Oh, that's too funny. I think, seriously? Come on. We've known about this for a long time. There's much more than monoliths on the moon. And they think that's the big story. Really? Let me see here. That is just too funny to me. We're not even scratching the surface. No, let me see. Go back to this. Okay. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Okay. All righty. I think this guy's been talking here, so I don't want to miss any questions or anything like that. That's true. Poindexter 624, he said Arthur C. Clarke wrote to NASA requesting an explanation for what looked like banyan trees. Yep. From the images of Mars. Absolutely. I remember that. Yep. And they really do kind of look that way. Neutron 7575, you said I watch your videos over and over and always find new stuff. It's so awesome. Here's the thing, and I said this before, whether it's a raw photo that they just come out, could be from the Perseverance, Curiosity rover, doesn't matter which one. And people just go, oh, wow. Just go right through it. And like I said, when I enhance it, I go, pause it any way you guys want and actually take your magnifier out and just scope it out. You'll find some crazy things I won't even purposely talk about because maybe they're too small at the time and it just said, I'd rather get to the big stuff so we don't make a super long video. And that's pretty much what I'll do. And then sometimes I'll do it purposely to see how many people will say, hey, by the way, did you see that thing on the other side of that other big anomaly? Hey, there we go. People are watching this thing and they're really paying attention because there are a lot of you good folks that just jump on this stuff like a pit bull, which is the whole idea of my channel, right? To get people saying, I want to check into this more and more. I want to get to know this stuff and see what's really going on in these photos, right? James Gragan, you said, Chris, the pics in the vids last night are unreal, man. I am just flicking on them here in between this chat, top of the range stuff, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, we had some crazy stuff on there, man. Just, again, I always bring all of these things together because it's like a giant puzzle piece. And it's like I said, it's one thing to see like just one thing. You go, oh, okay, it's a possibility. But again, you start putting all this stuff together. I don't care, photo after photo we enhance, or like that big photo looks like a city on Mars. All of these things put together. Same thing with the moon. Clearly, there's something on the moon and this other planet. There's no doubt in my mind. Take it to the grave. 100% we're not alone. And nobody's going to sway me otherwise. And, I've seen too much in these photos, and I've actually had people tell me I had a guy years ago say the same thing. He was like, um, just want to let you know, keep doing what you're doing. You're getting to, what do you say? How do they word it? You're on the right path. So I'm like, what? I go back there, reply, can you emphasize more on what you're saying? Which one, what part are you talking about? Nothing. Sorry, this cannot be returned, blah, 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 blah. So it's just sent. You couldn't reply to it back. I'm like, okay, just let it be. So somebody's paying attention. John Shea, he said, yeah, I always enjoyed it before, Chris. And glad you started the Hangouts again. Oh, yeah, me too. It's like, don't get me wrong, we have it for the first 3 days of the week. And to be honest with you, it fits because my wife works like a real easy job there. She does first 3 weeks, first 3 days of the week. So I said, I want to do the same, keeps myself busy, and I want to get back into this anyway. There you go. So Mariana, his channel is called Digital Voodoo. His label is blue and purple. Everyone is welcome to follow and participate in the projects. Collaborate. I think it's wonderful. He makes videos and music. Okay. Might check that out. Digital Voodoo. Let me see. Let me just get a pen. I want actually to write that down. I'm always willing to check out new stuff. I'll definitely check that out. Got it written down right there. All right. Let me see. Kurt Abanas, what's happening? Live long and prosper. Absolutely. Chris Boogie says just security clearances. And that's what it comes down to. But again, I don't see the point of saying something that's going to intrigue millions and then just go, oh, I'm just kidding. We're just not going to give you any more information. That's just stupid to me. But that's just me. And I know you folks are the same way. You're just going, why stop there? Oh, they might be showing some monoliths on the moon. And we've seen a lot more crazier stuff than that. Who cares? But again, this is not being brought to their attention. And Moose said, Chris, you have your own smoking. You have your own smoking, man. Maybe another phantom email will show up one day. Well, you never can tell, right? Gene Borsier says, conifers on Mars. Oh, okay. David, what's going on? Langan. I guess that's jumping in, rather. I'm sorry. Scott Braseghi, what's going on? Talking to Gene, they say they got to have something to hang on their Christmas lights. Oh, Katie's back up here again. Can I get up there? Come on. All right. Oh, star of the show. Let's see. Zan, you said your body of work has proven it to me. We know they have been inhabited and probably still are. Yeah, oh yeah. What's going on? You want to talk to the people? No? Oh, you hear her? She just purring away. Enrico says, cat is smiling. Hee hee. Gene Borsi, exactly. He might be watching right now, Thomas Stone said. Absolutely. You want to say hi? You're just going to sit there. Okay, let's do this. Oh, not that, but let's do this. I'm going to leave that on. Let's check out this is what we were getting at before we get into the Black Knight. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Basically BS. When you look at this here, we have, oh, looky, U.S. Department of War. And it's showing all of this other batch of records. You can see that. Let me see. Can we make this a hair bit bigger? Sure. The Department of War just released the fifth tranche of records under pursue. The first, I guess, a tranche was released on May 8th, 2026. Scroll down to view the fifth tranche and release on August 7th, 2026. Okay. Cartoon. This is mostly artist interpretation. You can see it. This image is an artist interpretation of a reported incident potentially involving an unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAP, near Colorado Springs, Colorado in 2023. I don't want to see an artist. Every one of them says it just about. Look at this. Artist interpretation. Yeah. Another one, images and artist interpretation. This file contains a 1953 memorandum related to the U.S. Navy photographic interpretation center's assessment of a film allegedly depicting unidentified airborne objects. So, UAOs. But this was 1953, yep. And they called a movie back then, including one of the among the enclosures are approximately 30 feet of processed 16 millimeter color motion picture film that was a list of questions for guidance in determining the type of analysis desired. Reference requested interpretation edition moving taken in Montana, 1950. This report supersedes reference C, and so basically it's like riddles, but the film exposed in Utah is a very poor condition, dry, brittle, and with a tendency to break, which kind of makes sense. It's film. After initial viewing, duplication of the film was preferred in order to preserve the film, and the duplication process, some color correction was made to permit better viewing of the objects. To prepare the plots of the objects, a stop frame projector was rigidly mounted at a fixed distance, for a finely ground glass screen rather. The magnification was 22 times, giving the format size of 14.2 inches wide. This proved very satisfactory. It's kind of weird the way I had that kind of taken out of there, and provided a shadow-free image upon which overlay plots could be made. Overlay plots can be laid. Okay, or made. Interesting. Supposed to be a big triangle. Again, airborne triangle 2002. Digital rendering. Artist interpretation. James Cragen, you said, Chris, as you are panning along the pics last night, the amount of things that we're showing is insane. Honest to God. Oh, like I said, just get a good look at these things, James. It's incredible. This is the reason why I have that photo between some of these photos with the moon, and of course I got the Mars one on my on the screen itself. Just absolutely awesome. Metalhead, you said I have a tuxedo too. They're amazing cats. Yeah, they're cool. She was actually she's the fifth cat, that we have saved from one of the places we worked at. Actually, I shouldn't say that. One, there's friends of ours that said, there's a cat found over there with the mother and the babies. I tried to get two of them. She was all black, maybe just a little spot on her chest, but I tried to get the mom too. She wouldn't. The lady wouldn't give me her. I was like, why not keep them together? Oh, I think I'm going to keep her. I'm thinking, why not just keep the cat too then, the kitten? But anyway, so I kept her, had her for 16 years, just about all my cats for 16 years. And then one of them was at a flea market of all places. Her and she was just two other cats, so there must have been her brothers and sisters. Where I mean, it was like 95 degrees out, and don't get me wrong, there's an umbrella on top and everything else, but they were panting and everything else. And I was hoping when I went back the next day that there was the one we wanted was still there. We called her name was Smokey. She was like all gray and white and everything else. But I'll tell you what, we got her in the van, had the AC cranking. She's running up and down the 3 sets of stairs and the seats rather. I'm sorry. She's running all over the place. She's like happy as all hell. But yeah, and the other one we had, in fact, when we got her, she's in the neighborhood where we live now. And prior, we were not. We live in another neighborhood. And this woman told my wife, "Oh, there's a cat over here, a black cat, long-haired domestic, just out there." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go find it." She said, "We can't keep it. We have a 150-pound lab. We can't have it in the house." I was like, "Okay, got you." Went over there, and for some reason, it's at a mobile home, and the skirting was gone. So I'm looking for this cat. I can't find this cat. I'm like, I don't know. What the hell did it do? Run off? So she said, "Just a yellow kitty." So I'm going, "Kitty, kitty, kitty." And then I see this little black thing and just run along, came right to me, picked it up, and it just jumped on my shoulder. And I had her since then. And then she's passed too. Every one of them, there's a year difference between them. They all died 16 years. Weird. Really weird. But she was a kitten. And she had upper respiratory, eyes were glued shut. She was a mess, and she was back to it about 23 other cats back there. I said, "This cat's not going to live to the next day. Something's going to eat it, or she's not going to be able to find her mom or the food." I said, "I'll just take her." So we took her home. We didn't take her home. We took her immediately to the vet, got some shots and everything for her, and had her since. Quick story. But yeah, I mean, I can't see that. I said, I don't want to see the cat just out there. And it was cold. It was getting right into, not dead of winter, but definitely winter. Poindexter said Buzz Aldrin appeared on C-SPAN and claimed that there was a monolith on Phobos. There is a photograph of clearly showing a monolith casting a shadow. Absolutely. And I don't remember how big they say it is, but from the shadow, it is pretty tall. He said, yeah, once they see that, they're going to say, who the heck put that there? Remember that? That's what he said. But there's much more. I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me as far as those weren't some kind of satellite for themselves. So in other words, even though they look like rocks, meaning just big balls of rock out in space, I think there might have been like a satellite to them. And maybe there's something inside, because who would go to that rock and just put a monolith on it and then leave? Was it possibly something sticking out from underground that's part of something inside that thing, inside the actual moon, right? Who knows? Scott Brasecki said, I don't know what the Black Knight satellite is, but the spiritually advanced aliens are able to observe us by remote viewing and don't need to watch us from space. Well, that may be now, but maybe back in the day when they were more like we are today, where we've got, like I said, orbiters and satellites around Mars. And now, of course, there's other countries doing it too. But maybe back then that was a different story. You know what I'm saying? But now, through the mind is, they can do it much, because we do remote viewing here on Earth as well, right? So, yeah, now you go, okay, well, we can do that now, so we no longer need that. Jason Motorhead McVeigh, he said, I have a cat that I got from the neighbor as a kitten. I'm more of a cat person than a dog person. I am too. Always have been. Now, I'm not saying I dislike dogs. I like dogs. I just preferred cats because, one, they're not as large, and they don't just, when they're rambunctious, knock everything over in the house. But cats are more independent. They do things for themselves. Obviously, they don't bark in the middle of the night. You don't have to take them outside, unless, of course, they're small dogs. You can box train them. That's different. But we got a neighbor, and they've got dogs, and they're pretty cool. You can go over there and pet them and everything else. Don't have a problem with them. I just don't prefer them. You know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of people that prefer dogs over cats, and that's fine too. Whatever floats your boat. Susie J says, a good man, Chris, rescuing and saving those fur babies. I have 9 rescues. Yeah, like I said, I've had 5 over a course of years, and it's like, they're obviously part of the family because, like when my son was growing up, all the way up till he was, let me see, one of the cats we just had now, he had just recently passed. My son was like 20, 21. Now, keep in mind, she lived 16 years, so he was very young, so he was upset, obviously, and we all were. Every time you lose a cat, dog, doesn't matter what it is. It's part of the family, so obviously you get upset about it, and rightfully so. Scott Brasecki said, Poindexter, you were talking to him as well as James was. He said, I thought Nikola Tesla thought he received radio signals from Mars. See, he thought two things. One, he believed it was from Mars, but he also said, wait a minute, it seems like it's too close. So he wasn't sure what was going on. And I think that's when they actually discovered the Black Knight. And then I think he said, I think it was that. So it's hard to tell, right? And because he wouldn't be able to hear it all the time, because obviously this thing's orbiting and it's going to be going around. So he would catch signals. If it was from the Black Knight, it'd be on, off, depending on the part of the day. Unless he caught it like every single day or every single night at the same, like precisely these times, then it would make sense. Every time it went around, he could hear something. Poindexter, he said, Phobos is hollow. I believe that. You know what I mean? I think it's something else more than just a rock floating out in space. John Shea, he said, there's always with you, Chris, it's family. I know the spirit goes on after the body dies. My cat, deceased, showed me on the day he died. His body was one side of him and the other side of a room. I'm insane. Yeah, I mean, you can't help it. I mean, obviously, you're going to grow attached to them, and it's just the way it is. Especially when you nurture, feed them, love them, and everything else. It's going to happen. It's just the way it is. It's like your own kids. Metalhead, you said, I've trapped 18 cats in the last year. No one wants cats anymore. All of the kittens have grown up, don't know what to do. LA will just euthanize them. And that's what sucks. Like, we have one, it's a no-kill shelter, which is awesome. But at some point they get overrun because, and it's cool that we have some people out there like this too, because we had this woman who would go back there. And one day I'm looking at him saying, I don't know this lady. What is she doing? And she was over in this certain part of this business. Like I said, she's in the back of it. I'm saying, what is she doing? She leaves and I'm like staring her down like, she's doing something evil. So I go down, to where she was at, which is a good walk. I walk over there. No, just on the contrary, literally had bowls of food, had actual meat, water, everything all laid out on the, I said, I'll be darned. Because a lot of people go there, they want to trap them. Some people drive fast through there trying to, I don't know if they're trying to run them over, but if they're going that fast, at some point they may run one over. So I'm just like, wow, okay. You got to love people like that, which is, willing to help, and they'll bring like little Tupperware structures, like make like almost like a doghouse only for cats. Put some straw in them for the wintertime, which I have a really big one out here. I had a tuxedo cat a while back. It was afraid of everybody. I finally got it to come to me. I pet it and everything. It loved it. I got it used to me. It wouldn't go anywhere near my family. Finally, I got it to the point where my wife could hold it. Then my son could hold it. I said, we can't keep the cat, but I wanted to, if we bring it over to the shelter over here, they'll find it a good home because it's a baby. It'll be very affectionate. And we found, I don't think it was 2 days later, it was somebody had adopted it. So it's awesome. Crystal, what's going on? Good to see you in there. I harness walk my blue Bengal. Oh, that's cool. He is more dog-like. He is 2 years old. He is 2 years old soon and loves his walks, but wants to say hello to all of the neighborhood cats and some of the dogs. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, that's cool. John Shea, he said years back, You took apart a NASA animation of pics from the dark side of the moon. Chris showed a massive city industrialization. Enjoyed that, but can't find it again. It should be on there. I'm trying to remember what the other one. Yeah, I don't remember what we call it now, but yeah, they should still be on there. It should be. If you go to the other channel, I've got Lunar Anomalies and Beyond, which I haven't really put anything on there because I've been doing everything on this channel. But if you go on there, there's actually a few. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 videos on it too. Gene Boussier, you said the Black Knight satellite was left behind as a sign to us humans to better understand. It is a gift. The Radical Squadron says actress Hedy Lamarr co-invented what was the early form of Wi-Fi. Yep, sounds familiar. Not entirely sure, but it sounds familiar. Ranger Heaven, he said, every time I look at the UFOs, they fly off. Well, it's almost like they go, oh crap, they've seen us. Okay, John Jay, he said, I'll work it out, mate. Thanks. Yeah, like I said, if you look at Lunar Anomalies, it'll be on. It should be on there. Or at least, like I said, there's like 5, 6 videos I put on there. I was going to just like have separate just lunar ones. And I ended up putting them all on here because this had most views. So it's going to have most people on this one. It's hard to get everybody over to the other one. When they'd rather watch this, you can have the flavor of both. Lunar, Mars, all different other, yeah. Mark Bedina, what's happening? He said, hey, Chris, can you repost the picture of the city? You had it as your wallpaper last night during the cast. As far as I can see, the links have been removed from all of the videos. Rick Rocker, what's happening? Good to see you in there. He said, hey, wow, Chris, you've been treating us all week. Great, good stuff. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, oh, yeah. And like I said, we figure we're going to do like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then for the rest of the week, just kind of chill. But I might start doing like at least a video or two near the end of the week. We're going to see what happens. But I enjoy these more because I can always like do a couple photos and then show you folks that and actually have it like a video within a podcast, if you will. So you get the best of both worlds. Let me see. KC, you said, I keep wondering why there isn't any new footage of the so-called black satellite. Also wonder why it changes shape like it is made of fabric. It is, but it isn't. Ah, let's just get into that. Okay. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Let me do it this way. Best way to do it here. Now, I was telling you folks about the STS missions. I'm going to show you this here. We talked about, we've seen this is one of the shuttles, of course. And I was showing you folks where the trunnion pins actually go. I'll show you that in a second. Here's one right here. Literally locks in. It's like I said, if you look at the door on your car or truck, when it goes into that pin type thing on the door frame, it closes onto it and just latches on. Same thing. Other side, it's right over here. So you got two of them. And that's what they put these modular parts of the ISS in. And they brought it up and then they bring it out into space and they would, connect them together. And that's what they use, right? Let's do this. Here's another view of it. So you get a better idea. This one's not as clear, but it has one on this side. And I think they can only carry just one in the bay at a time. And there's one down here as well. So these round modular parts of the ISS, they had a trunnion pin on each side. It would hold it in the bay. Let me see here. There's the photo you were talking about earlier. Let me do this. I got to find this again. Oh, wrong one. Here we go. I'm going to do it this way. It's better. Okay, this is the actual trunnion pin. So the right part is the part that slides into that latch. The rest of this goes into the body of the actual module part of the ISS when they were putting it together, right? And again, we can see it here, where it goes into. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When you look at these photos, you see things like this. Okay. Now, this one could look really weird, like that actually looks like a spacecraft. But if you notice, and I'll show you the other pictures I've got right here, there's like a slice in between there, meaning there's space in between. Okay. Now, you can look at these pictures. This is the actual cover. That's what that is. It has flaps on it. You can see it. What we need to show you, if you haven't seen this before, on here, here's a trunnion pin. This is the one that has the cover missing. On the other side, which we should have two, remember there's one on each side of the module. Here's the other one. You can barely see it, but it's on the, whoop. I hate it when that happens. Whoop. Okay. So right here, this thing's killing me. I'm trying to get it over as far as I can. Okay. Right there, you can see the top. I call it like a top hat. That is the trunnion pin under it on the far right side. And you can see it has the fabric that lays down on the capsule. So what this is a thermal cover. And once they take this off, then they lock them in, right? So that's what you're seeing. Now, if you look at the size of the cover, if it stopped doing this on me, it'd be great. If you look at the size of the cover, it's actually pretty big, although you can't see very well. But it's right there. And then you look at the size of the astronaut. It would take up a good part of his torso. So they're not super big, but they're not super small. So I would say it's from his neck to right around his knees, at least, or at least there to maybe his feet. It's a good size, but it doesn't look very big there. Again, one extreme right on the edge of the screen. And then you got the one here on the left with no cover. That's what flew off. That's what they're missing. So they're not lying. It isn't, in fact, a cover. However, and we can look at these here. There it is there. And again, here it is again, a different way. Okay. And you can definitely tell this is the actual trunnion pin, actual thermal blanket. There's no doubt in my mind. However, when you go to, let me see if it's this one here. Here's a different one. You can just see it's like different. It's just kind of flopping around in space. That's what you see, right? Again, here. Okay. But this is where it gets bizarre. This is not the blanket. And you go, I don't see anything. Well, it did a great job of trying to kind of take this out. You can see right here, there's actually some decent amount of clarity. And then you can see this blotch right in the smack dab, right in the middle. And you can see what looks like something's in behind these compression artifacts. Although I don't believe they're just totally real artifacts. I'm not saying there isn't any. But now we want to look at, this is what it really is. At least this is what the one photo that stands out, this is actually not a blanket. This is actually a spacecraft. This is the Black Knight. And you can see right here, and its regular orientation almost has two pieces to this thing. It's kind of weird. Right there. This is the original. That's what it looks like out in space. All we do is just bring it up. Just bring up the brightness. You can see that. That's the actual Black Knight. Not what looks like the cover, because clearly that is not. They're not lying. It is definitely the thermal blanket. But like I said, that is the blanket. They're not lying, but this is not. Again, original. Let me see where the other one is. Here, right here. I kind of rotate it in this photo so we can see this a little better, but there's the actual one right there, and you can see what it looks like. There's, like, they kind of digitized it out, most of it, trying to hide it, but this is what it is. And when you really clean this thing up, you see what it really looks like. This is not the cover. And they just kind of threw that in. Yeah, that's has nothing to do with it. That's the blanket, I promise. And most people would believe that because most of these photos are, in fact, the blanket. So they're not lying. Poindexter, he said, John von Neumann conceived of the idea of alien intelligence constructing a robotic probe to explore space and monitor and report when certain conditions are met, a Van Neumann probe. Well, again, we're doing the same thing. So why is it like unheard of for somebody else not to do the same? You know, again, Mars, we're sending out all kinds of satellites out way out in space. You know, going out into the universe now. We got going to different moons. We're still going to different moons. Yeah, we're all over the place. Why? Because we're trying to find answers too. We're just like little kids just wanting to know more. That's all. Not a big deal. But that's the actual Black Knight. Now, I was on there with, let me see if I can do this here. I'll show you guys the, right here. This was the one Billy had done, Black Knight Satellite Beyond the Signal. And, of course, it's got yours truly in it. But let me see. I just, this is from IMDb. Let me see. Put this up here. Okay.
We're going against the wind. The wind's 120 miles to the west. Oh, thank you.
You know, you're dealing with all of these objects that are hanging out over your sensitive military installations, nuclear facilities, and now you're seeing objects in orbit.
Hold on. Want to make sure that was right. We are good.
We're going against the wind. The wind's 120 miles to the west. Oh, thank you.
You know, you're dealing with all of these objects that are hanging out over your sensitive military installations, nuclear facilities, and now you're seeing objects in orbit.
After I enhanced it a little bit more, I could see that there was almost two halves to this craft. This is something that is intelligently made.
Somebody is watching us. We should at least know who it is and why.
The watchers are called the messengers.
Yes.
They keep watch on us because they're thinking, well, perhaps they're not going in the right direction.
This is an actual NSA document. They are talking about communication through specific frequencies and then how we could communicate back with ET.
Houston, this is Discovery. We still have the alien spacecraft under repellent.
This Black Knight is...
Now, that was a real recording. If you listen carefully what he says. still have an alien spacecraft. So they were listening to this, or seeing this thing rather, when they were talking back and forth to Capcom, and saying this thing is still there.
This black knight is somehow correlated with the Vultus constellation.
I think there's a lot more to it.
An early reptilian race brought this satellite into orbit.
These so-called satellites are to observe the planets, to listen. The universe is full of these probes.
What I think is the most important thing to understand, are we being watched? Who is watching us? And where are they from? I am Billy Carson, and this is my investigation into the Black Knight satellite.
Yep. 100%. Okay. So what I didn't like is that he didn't use my enhanced photo. He used his, which was the blanket. Didn't make any sense. When clearly you can tell it was a blanket and they still used it. I'm like, no. There's a big difference between, let me see, this right here and this right here. Big difference. Let me see, this one. Yeah, right there. That's not a blanket. The other one was. So you can't enhance a blanket because obviously people knows it's a blanket. So, yeah. Steve Garner said aliens and explorers just like us. Absolutely. Again, I don't care how technologically advanced you are. If you're going to look out into the universe, either listen to radio waves or some kind of other radio waves. It could be TV, it could be radio. It's still, still energy, still radio waves in a sense, right? Electromagnetic, call it what you want. So, and what's funny about it is they're going, well, I don't know if you guys watch these documentaries where they're talking about, well, we haven't been able to hear their transmission except for the one I told you guys about where there was somebody that thought they heard like a distress call, like it kept saying, help us, we destroyed ourselves, this and that. So they think it was Mars, so on and so forth. And then, like I said, in 1941, this happened where there's two huge explosions right in the orbit or the atmosphere. It's like lower to medium atmosphere part of it. Mars, it literally exploded, two of them. So, and then not long after that, they got this recording saying, oh, this distress signal saying, please help us. We're dying here. We did it to ourselves, so on and so on. And again, I don't know if that was completely made up. It probably was. But the thing is, it kind of coincides if that's what happened, the chain of events, and it would make sense, right? But yeah, to me, it just, let me see, hold on. Yeah, Steve Gunham, you're right about that. It says, sad we lost Eric Von Daniken and Nick Pope this year. Yeah. Yep. That sucks. Two people I would have liked to have met myself. Third Eye Open, you said, huge difference. Yeah, there's a big difference between what looks like the blanket and that there. And like I said, they enhanced the blanket and used that in that documentary. I went, why? And they actually asked me for these photos and still use something else. I'm like, okay. The Radical Squadron, the month, August 15, 1977, the WOW signal was recorded. 6EQ, UJ5, Ohio State University Big Air Radio Telescope. Yes. And because it played for like, what the heck was it? Was it like 40 seconds, 47 seconds? I forget what it was. And of course, they were like, oh my God, of course, they couldn't get it. They couldn't hear it again after that. They listened for it, couldn't hear it again. But it was just out of nowhere. And they happened to be listening that direction. And there you go. I think they probably heard the signal before and probably caught the very tail end of it. And they were like, oh my God, just keep the radio telescope in that area. And there we go. And that's what they were doing. You know, what I was getting at earlier, and I was looking at these comments at the same time, was that they were saying, well, we haven't heard any other, radio signals or anything. How do we know they're the same as us? How do we even know? We don't know. Like I said before, we talked about the FRBs, the fast radio burst. They're basically like a blink of light. And how do we know they're not communicating with light? It's just a simple flash, but maybe there's so much information embedded in that. And if you've got a receiver, just it's so much information, it just comes out and it just, maybe it's like I said before, kind of kidding around, but maybe it's a galactic newspaper sort of thing, and everybody knows what's going on. Could very well be. They're not even using radio waves. They just use these fast radio bursts. And it's like they say, well, it's from a nebula, it's from this, and that could very well be, because it's been known to happen. They know this. But one guy from, what's his name? The one from SETI, the lead guy, he goes, well, you just don't understand. There's one over there that's four light years away, and the other one's like 250,000 or whatever light years away. So, yeah, it probably couldn't. I'm a little confused. If you were to go on a much smaller scale, and we're using, let's say, ham radio or CBs or something like that, I can be in one county. Some guy's 250 miles away. If I'm using power, he's going to hear me. Why does it matter? I'm still communicating different areas. Why does that matter? So, I think it's a form of communication, and they've been doing that all along. This is the reason why we haven't heard them. Well, maybe you don't need to hear. You need to see them. And maybe that's what it is. And you can bet they've done somehow when they've got their, maybe they know where they come from, because it's some of, what is it? There's some that are cycling, like every 16 minutes or whatever it is, and they cycle continuously. It's like, okay, we don't know if there's something embedded in that, some kind of information. It's hard to tell. Like the movie Contact, what did they have? They literally had radio signal come in, and they found that like it was on a lower band, like a sideband kind of thing, and they got both audio and then video. So how do we know it's not similar to that? Only a light, just flash. That's all it takes. Split second. And all of these people, these high-tech, worlds these civilizations are not just like, it's just receiving it all and just, there you go. It's just a thought. No way to vet any of that, of course, but it's a thought. And, we think we know it all, or we don't. There's probably so advanced that we wouldn't even begin to know how they communicate or anything like that. And as far as language-wise, they would have to sit there and listen to our language and then watch our videos and go, okay, we need to understand what this is. Okay, they say, what is this machine thing that they sit in? Oh, it's a car? Is that what that is? So they got to put these together in order to learn our language, because even the language from the 50s to now has changed. The way people use slang, or the way people use different terminologies now. Like back in the day, how many people remember this? Like my dad told me one time, he said, yeah, I had a Nova 2 that was raked in the back. I went, raked? What the hell does that even mean? Well, then there was jacked up. Back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, it was jacked up. It was this, it was that. So, you know what I mean? Language constantly changes. So they're not going to come out speaking exactly like us. This is the reason why they said, well, we go by, mathematics, because it's a universal, and numbers are basically universal, right? So, yeah. Ricardo, there he is. I was busily rattling on. Didn't see you get jump in there. Good to see you in there. Yes, it is a polar orbit. Yep, from north to south. Or south to north, depending on how you want to look at it. Serge, didn't even see you in there either. Good to see you in there as well. So Black Knight has been in polar orbit before we knew how to go into polar orbit. Yes, this is a fact. James, you said, Chris, there's another one where the female astronaut sees a craft and the other astronaut. Yes, I've seen that too. I think I've got that recording, in fact. grabs it by the and she looks shocked that she sees it. But you remember, you can actually hear her say, "Oh," and you can hear him go, "Shh, shh, shh," like, and like, keep it quiet. You can actually hear her saying, shh. You can hear him saying, "Shh, shh, shh," shh," because she saw it for the first time and it blew her mind, I think. Ricardo, you said, been busy or would not have missed so far. Yeah, exactly. Well, we've been in there for a little bit, yeah. That's what I heard too, Lisa Potter. He said Black Knight satellite sometimes leaves orbit and goes to the moon. They have said that. I've heard that. And is it possible? Sure, why not? We don't know what this thing's capable of. I don't. Again, if it's actually real. But yeah, I believe that it is. Because again, Nikola Tesla heard this transmissions, and he's like, wait a minute. And this is before any kind of satellites were put out in space. We're talking about the 1890s, right? So, Radical Squadron, you said, just subbed. Thank you very much, and welcome aboard. Good to have you in there. Third Eye Open says, exactly, Chris. Communication can be through light, color, vibration, etc. Humans are so arrogant thinking that we know all. There's nothing left to learn. Yeah, exactly. And I feel the same way. I don't believe, for a moment, we like I said, I believe we're just like in our infant stage, and we're just learning how to walk and crawl, and we're looking out at our oh, wow, we had neighbors. Wow, let's go out and take a peek. That's all we're doing right now. Forget about it's just our mentality. And like I said, we go in there going, well, like I said about radio, so, yeah, there's no way. We haven't heard any of them. What are you talking about? And it's like, you don't even know, man. They could be on a total spectrum we know nothing about. It's like, well, we know there's a spectrum from this to this. How do you know that's what they use? Well, there could be no other way that you know of. I don't know it all. I don't. And here's the thing. We have no clue what the hell this could possibly, how they could possibly go about doing this. Like I said, it could be light, like you said, vibration, could be just about anything. Compression waves, it could be just about anything. Anchor Point, you said, why is the Black Knight is not front news every day is beyond me? Because they'll be just like, yeah, it's not true. Because first time NASA would say that, it's like, nah, it's a hoax. Now, again, is it possible it is? Yeah, I mean, I haven't personally seen the satellite. I don't think any of us have. But going by what we've seen, it could be nothing more than just a myth, and that's it. But this picture tells me different. There could be something there, or is it something that somebody else, another country, put up, and oops, somehow they got in the picture. I don't know. Oh, who? See, I'm not even sure I'm even pronouncing that correctly. No one dared shoot it down. Well, yeah, of course not, because they're afraid of something be like a Trojan horse or something else, or to retaliate. Hard to tell. Metalhead, you said your question was, Chris, have you analyzed any of the Chinese moon photos? They would be cool to do. I have, and sadly, they're worse than ours. I think it was the Chang'e 4, when they landed down, what a mess. I done one. In fact, you could probably find the video. Chinese, you just put Chinese and moon and see what it comes up with. But I'm almost positive I'd done one, and it was so bad. I mean, you could barely even see the lander that they had. It was that bad. I'm like, how do you people get away with this? The people of that country are going, are you people stupid? We have the best technology out right now, and yet you took it with a potato, the photo. You got to be out of your mind. And, they just think the average person's completely stupid. And, like I said, we got 8K, and who knows what this really out there, meaning they're really pushing at 10K, whatever, pristine photos and very large and everything else, pristine detailed photos. And yet they come back with a photo. Again, it looks like somebody shot a camera through a potato. James said, Chris, that's right, man. That's the one. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Jerry Lahane, you said SETI is a scam. I don't think that it's a scam on the just by going by what they do in their job, and of course they're funded, that it is the real deal. However, they're not divulging what they're finding. And I think they probably found more than one civilization out there, and they're not saying a word. Again, why? Let's suppose they said, oh, this is like 400 light years away. Okay. And maybe through their broadcast, you say, well, they're pretty much primitive like us, meaning they're just, at around our technology. So they can never make it to us in time, unless, of course, they set out now and get to about 500 years, whatever the case is. And it's kind of like, well, you'd have to be flying at, light speed in order to get there in 400 years. But the thing is, it's like, for me, it's just like, why would that, don't get me wrong, to be curiosity, do we know if they're like evil, civilization, people would be concerned. 400 light years away, there's just no way you'd have to worry about it. If they're at the technology or technological level that we are, I don't think they would have to worry about it. And they could still lie. They could just say, well, we took photos or whatever, or there's some kind of transmission. And besides, it's probably the civilization's dead and gone now because it's, again, 400 light years away. So they could be dead by now. We don't know. But I don't know. To me, why they keep all the secrets is beyond me. Zooks, he said, did the universe invent math and numbers, or did intelligent life somewhere? Great question. It's something that we just come up with and just started using numbers. Again, would another civilization use the exact same numbers? Well, the zeros and ones, and we got different numbers. We got this. And that's true. It's universal. However, for us, yes. And do we know it would be the same for them? Do they even use numbers? I don't know. You would think they would, because obviously they'd have to build and, whatever calculations, so on. So yes, but would they use the exact same numbers? Now, here's a perfect example. When you look at the Sumerian alphabet, how many letters were in their alphabet? It was, was it like 200 or something? It was something ridiculous. Where ours is what, 23, 26, whatever it is. It was ridiculous. You're going, okay. So it has changed between ancient times to now. So how do we know it's the same there? We have no idea. What was it saying this here? Ricardo, you said, is no one else having audio issues? Sound is a bit off on the live stream for some reason. Hold on. It might be because I had this other one on. Let's see if that solves the problem. Usually when I have the audio on from the computer to play through for you folks, sometimes it'll give like this weird, like reverbish kind of thing. Let's see if that straightens it out. It might help. John Shea, you said China is the most censored and controlled country on the planet, with the exception of North Korea, I guess. Well, again, they have to show the money they get from their Congress, we're going to use the term. They have to show results. So, yes, we're going to give you the photos once we get them. We're going to bring them down. Yeah, this is what we got. And you know darn well, I mean, it's absolute crap when you see these photos. They must have said, listen, these people dismantle all the photos coming from NASA. We're not going to let it happen on ours. Just put anything out. Who gives a damn? And you can't do that because the people there are disappointed going, this is what our money's going to? You got to be kidding me. And they ought to be ashamed of themselves. Okay, Ricardo, you said that pretty much worked. Okay. Author, he said, once we get out among our planets, who knows what we might find waiting for us? Well, I would think they would already had communicated with us. Seeing we are making it out into the world, so to speak. We're making it out. We're just finally taking our steps and doing our thing. Although, if we go back to yesterday's conversation, and if we've been messing with anti-gravitics since the 40s, then we've probably already been out and about. This is the reason why we've been communicating with them. For all we know, and again, I'm getting going totally sci-fi on you guys. How do we know they didn't say, listen, we're going to take you to our planet, or you can follow us to our planet, and they're going. And we don't know. And again, total sci-fi. But the thing is, if they have done that, like I said, they could probably get to Mars in like 6 hours. You know, fly super fast, get there, boom, boom. And it's like nothing to do it, if that's in fact real. Well, we know anti-gravitics is, but I mean, as far as that they built their own spacecraft, can sit in it and, go through that, because all they got to do is just slowly, pick up speed, as opposed to, and you're basically human pizza on the wall. No, they'd have to like accelerate slowly, like if you were in a car or something like that. Radical Squadron, yes, you are correct. The Sumerian writing system is known as cuneiform. Yep. Cuneiform text. And they were the first ones to come out with language. They were the first ones to come out with looked like city streets, had laws, everything else. And trying to remember too, and of course they had all of their stories and stuff like that, right? Really, really wild. When you stop and think, you go, how do these people come up with this stuff? You literally have to just make it up. Like, let's go back to like cavemen. Like, meant a word. What does that mean, dinner? I mean, as silly as that may sound, it's kind of like, how do they come up with these words? And then they slowly, this is what I mean. How do we know that these other aliens would talk the same language? How do we know how they started off? Nobody knows. So it's not like you're going to sit there, hey, so what's going on? How's the planet doing? You're not going to have a conversation like this unless they have some kind of interpretation device that you can talk. There's just no way. Oh, yeah, James, you're absolutely correct. You said, Chris, for God's sake, just look at the doubled blurb pictures NASA put out as the real photos. 100%. Well, you know that. We've been tearing them apart for how many years? Yeah, I like that one. 0 to Mach 12 in 1 second. Gone. Let me see, this thing jumped again. Hold on. Let's see. Anchor Point says, the irony of having people dying of hunger on this earth every day while we have technologically superior beings around us is puzzling. Yep. And here's another thing I was just thinking about. I was thinking that today, remember we were talking about and we were talking about the show Life Without Humans, I think it was. What if, and this is a wild question, what if everything we make is by design to dissolve purposely? Why don't we make homes, of course they'd be super expensive, why don't we make homes like out of solid stainless steel that would last? And I'm talking about pure stainless steel, no iron or other metals in it. So it wouldn't rust or anything over the years. Everything we make, wood, obviously it'll go bad, rot away. Any kind of wood, some would be slower depending on, treated and everything else. But at some point it's gone. Cars rust away. Now you can have stainless steel bodies, aluminum, so on and so forth. Again, if it's pure. But everything we make just can dissolve or just rot away. So how do you know it's not by design? So at some point when we all die off, there's nothing to be seen. Like that guy, we were watching that video where he says, yeah, we were, industrialization for the past 300 years. So then there's no sign of us within these cycles. So that would kind of make sense. There's no way, unless you're building it out of stone, like all the ancient civilizations. We still see the Egyptian ones, the Mayans. We see all of these Baalbek. We see all of these ancient civilizations. All the stuff they built is still there. And then, of course, the underground ones, It's just crazy. But I'm just thinking, I'm going, why is it that everything we have just basically just rots away? Because you could build something that would not. I'm sure of it. But everything you would have to be something that would not rot away ever, which would be crazy. But it's like everything we have, it's like we're just temporary beings on this planet. And that once you get wiped, it just starts over again. Then wiped again, start over again. And hopefully you don't get completely wiped out. There you go. But I thought about that today. I'm going, that is just wild. If you think about it that way, that is. John Jay said Bob Lazar stated that the power source they use creates a field within which the technology is a separate dimension, and that's why they don't have to allow for gravity and such, apparently. I know, I watched that too, and it's fascinating. And, like I said, it's on a like a level that it's hard to just understand, because if that's true and they do it like that's what they say, is like you're in this bubble inside this craft, and nothing like acceleration and like bothers you. You just sit there, you just take off, and you don't even feel it. So just in that weird bubble type thing, and you're exempt from the G forces and everything else, while accelerating, decelerating, cornering, different directions, all that. It's just crazy. James, you said, Chris, as we always say, they never stop going up. I don't think so. I think they've, like we talked about many times, I think they just kept going, and I think they already got a base on the moon, and I believe there's a very good possibility they're already on Mars too. John Jay, what you're saying to Anchor Point, I think you're spot on. As he said, they're not allowed to intervene through galactic law. They look at us like we look like a mountain gorilla. We're not even involved enough. Well, and here's the thing. And I said this before. If you were an alien civilization, you've gotten past warring, you've gotten past monetary, you got past all of that people fight about. Fuel sources, food sources. If you've made it through the era where you'd be fighting them all and didn't kill each other off, and you've excelled at that, meaning you bypassed all that, you're now in harmony. There's nobody needing anything. Everybody just gets it. In other words, they got plenty of fuel for their houses, their whatever the heck. Food, housing, fuels. There's nothing to fight about. The civilization would be a lot better off. Now you come here and you go, they look like we did, millions of years ago. I don't want anything to do with these idiots. And I don't blame them. So if you're going to communicate with anybody here on Earth, it had to be the leaders, or at least the real puppet masters, the real owners of this planet. You would be talking to them. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. Whether it's to swap information for resources or whatever the case is. Maybe they're saying, hey, it looks like you guys might actually get it together at some point in 1,000 years. This is what's waiting for you if you guys play your cards right. If you don't, you will kill yourselves off. And like they say, a civilization can only get so big before it uses all its resources and wars with each other and implodes. So it can only get so big. This is the reason why we have all kinds of famine. We've got diseases. Things like, everybody got the shot, everything like that. You got AIDS, all kinds of things that still curve the population over the years. many people die of this big C, the cancer. And all of these people die because of this. It can be cured. So why not keep it going so we can keep curving the population? We don't want it to get too large because then we'll eat ourselves into oblivion. We'll definitely kill ourselves off. So at some point, they're going, let's regulate it, but we also need people to still have kids and everything else. People die off, people are born. People die off, people are born. We got to regulate the numbers. This is the reason why they're probably like, you need to do your census every time it comes in. Maybe for good reason. But although I don't believe that's on a strict scale, but I think that's what's going on. J. Bobby said everything being uploaded to the cloud too, nothing carved in stone anymore. Well, the bad thing about this, and I'd rather have it carved in stone, because everything can be lost, right? Unless it's being saved on these, mega hard drives or digital drives or whatever. But yeah. Ricardo, you said cars built in the last decades. Cars built last as long as the next operating of, yeah, exactly. Cars are now treated like cell phone upgrades. No incentive to make them last more than 3 years. And that's the thing. Have you seen these things? They're crazy now. They're literally looking at you now. They want you to, I think Ford and GM is getting on board with this where it's going to actually watch you, everything you're doing while you're driving. What are you kidding me? Yeah, and it's like, you get things like, I was talking to a mechanic not long ago, and he goes, yeah, I'd rather go back to something old. I said, why is that? Now, I know why. For me, I'd go back because it's simplicity. It's easy to work on. Dude, give me back a carburetor, like a Quadrajet or something like that, 350 Rocket or whatever the heck it is. Give me something simplistic I can work on all day long and not even just do it in my sleep. Give me a good set of tools. I'm good to go. Now they're saying, like, if you want like certain special things in there, like North Star you always had to pay for. OnStar, I'm sorry. But there was something ridiculous. They were talking about, I don't know if it's some kind of like, how like you got cruise control, but you got, assist, road assist and everything else with cruise. In other words, it's adaptive cruise. By the way, that's going to run out. You're going to have to pay for that. Literally everything they're putting into these vehicles now, it literally you have to have a subscription for now. I went, no way. He goes, I swear to you. I went, I'd rather keep my old cars. I'm good. Take them and burn them for all I care. The Radical Squad, exactly. They're already doing that. In fact, they were talking about that where, I get it for the safety reason part of it to a certain degree. But this is why they had like adaptive cruise, adaptive lane assist, all that other stuff. So if you're driving and you fall asleep at the wheel, ding, 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 it's going to tell you. Hell, even my 2011 does that. Toyota, it does that. Before GM was perfecting it. And Ford, they were already doing that. In fact, I scared my wife one day. I said, watch this. Click, click. Took my hands off the wheel, doing like 70 miles an hour. She goes, what are you doing? You see the thing going, doo-doo-doo-doo. It started going towards the edge of the lane. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Just knocked you right back in. And this is a 2011. It's not even anything new. But now they want to actually watch what you're doing. What are you kidding me? No way. I'd say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy it, but let me get a hammer so I can take the camera in out of it. James, you said, talking to Ricardo, he said, cars today are made of paper for fucking, yeah, exactly. I mean, back in the day when you drove a car, you knew you were driving a piece of metal. M5RL, you said, when you look closely, you can see the noise of the image, but once you try seeing behind it, you can see there is almost like a distorted bubble around the object, a disc rotating. Yeah. Yep. That's pretty wild. Let's see. A guy invented the electric motor you can connect to most car transmissions. Oh yeah, you can convert your car into fully electric. Just take the engine out, throw it in the garbage, and then hook the electric motor up to it. Obviously, DC to DC converters. It's not complicated. I don't mind having tech as long as there's nothing in there babysitting it. You know what I mean? Just roar if it's a fully electric vehicle. Keep anything that's got to do with OnStar, anything else that can snoop into your business. You know what I mean? You don't need people looking at you. You could be sitting here with your old lady watching a movie or something like that, or driving. And maybe you want to get a little frisky. But you know what I'm saying. But why do they need to be looking inside? It's like, please. Talk about infringing on your personal, life. Exactly, Ricardo. Well, it's all about making money, too. You know what I mean? He said, build fails, replace headlight unit, not just a bulb. Exactly right. Now you got to buy the whole darn unit. Oh, that's only $1,500 for that. And you're like, oh my God, what are you kidding? There you go. You said maybe the UFOs are locked into subscriptions too. I don't know. Radical Squadron, you said the steering wheels have pressure sensors. Exactly. Remember that, like they say, you got to put your hand back on it. So if you start going like this, if you just go, yeah, I'm in a self-driving vehicle, take your hand off. At some point, it's going, doo-doo-doo. You need to put your hand back on. According to what I read, you do not own a Ford truck because of patent systems, rather. I'm sorry. Which is, again, if you're going to spend the hard-earned money to buy this vehicle, like I said, so let's suppose you own it now. You buy a Ford, even a GM, whatever it is, top notch. They're coming out with all these bizarre subscriptions to everything you own in the thing. All right, you finish paying it off. How does that work? Do they automatically turn everything on because you now own it? Or do they go, yeah, it's not going to happen. If you want to continue to have all of these options, you're going to have to go ahead and pay for it. I think that's ridiculous. J. Bobby said, I was driving a newer company van in the snow once and it displayed driver impaired because I was sliding around on the ice. Oh, yeah, because you'd be like this, like, they're thinking, oh, my God, this guy's, he's drunk. Great for all. You said, I missed my V6, rather, 1983 Ford Cougar. Yep. Yeah, just give me something easy, man. I mean, I can work on the cars I got now. That's not the point. It's so much easier back in the day. And don't get me wrong, they're probably more reliable now, but they're made of junk. Look at like these valve covers, all plastic, this high-tempered plastic. Coolant pieces that go into the engine, they're plastic. Oh, it's like, well, wait a minute. When you replace it, the unit, it's actually a metal one if you get it from the auto parts store. It's like, so let me get this right. So they built it, these engineers, these brains of the place, are putting a piece of plastic like let's say a plastic housing for the coolant system. It's plastic. Cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot. At some point, that's going to crack. So the replacement is actually metal. So in other words, let's build it as cheaply as we can and still charge top dollar. And when it breaks, they can fix it. They can absorb all of the biggest price, what they're going to pay for the parts, right? I think that's ridiculous. That's pronounced like UMAM or RCH, whatever it is. Is that thing our invisible moon? No, this is supposed to be the Black Knight satellite. That's what this is. John Shea, he said, I wonder if the sensors can distinguish between the hands and the knees. I would think so, because obviously your knees are on the bottom of the steering wheel. I mean, if you're at 10.2, supposedly you're supposed to be 10.2, your hands got to be there. It's going to know. Yep, I'll take a little bit older car any time of the day. Yeah, but the second he said, there's a wire you can disconnect for that surveillance system, I heard. Well, then it automatically voids your warranty, or they'll say, well, you can no longer get all of the other things that are kind of hooked into it. So, yeah, sorry. It's crazy. Yep. Mikado, he said, engineered to last only as long as the warranty, initial warranty. Yeah, if you notice that, it's like, well, you got 30 years or whatever. 30 years, 30,000 miles. 36,000 miles, whatever it is, so many years. And then all of a sudden you start having all kinds of problems. John Chase said the customer covers the price anyways, Chris. Well, I'm saying as far as again, if we were to use that small piece of plastic on the coolant system, they're doing it the cheap way. But you're going to pay for more than what that thing cost them. So yours is now metal, which should have been done in the first place. So why not we're trying to spend less money, but you'll buy the real piece when it comes time. And it's ridiculous. Plastic radiators, plastic, like I said, coolant parts on the engine. I've got one on mine. It's got it's about this frickin' long, and it goes up this way and down this way, and they can easily crack and, whatever. But when you buy the new ones, they're actually metal. M5RL says, in the future, AI-made cars will have 10-door handles, but all of them will got placed with the windows glass. Once touched, opens the windows, which will push down the gas pedal. That's the current state. Nothing would surprise me. Don't get me wrong. What do you guys think of AI in general? I'm just curious. You guys think it's a bad thing? Do you guys think it's a good thing? What are you guys thinking? James, you said your question was, Chris, what do you think about the new image that's supposed to be under the pyramids? Well, we were talking about this yesterday, the other day, where I think a lot is what they're finding is because it has these columns and it's supposed to be coils around the columns going all the way down. If this is true, well, it brings a whole new meaning to these pyramids. Because now they're saying, what are they used for? Were they actually power plants like they said they were? Again, just pure speculation because they don't really know. But I want to see real photos. Now, again, when they're taking it with lidar and radar and all kinds of other stuff to get these photos, I want to see them dig down alongside of one of them and actually get a real photo of it. And then we can talk. Until then, I don't know how long these 90 feet or whatever they are. I forget, they're supposed to be pretty darn long. If not longer than that. And that is interesting in itself. Coupled by they saying, well, these things, these pyramids are supposed to be burials. They're not. They've got no writing of any kind of pharaoh in there. There's no writings on this, that, the other. Yeah. So I don't know what the deal is. I heard that at some point, the Egyptians came along and literally stumbled on these and decided to move into that area. In other words, they're not the ones that made it. There's all kinds of weird theories going on. Or that they did build it, and obviously the overseers helped them build it. That's what they put in their writing. With the help from the overseers, we built these great pyramids. Steve Gunn, he said, 1 o'clock in the morning, and the UK must go. Great hangout, Chris, and everyone, good night. All right, Steve, good to see you in there as always. You have yourself a good night. Better day tomorrow there, right? Always good to have you in there. Let me see. What was the other question? This thing. I'm not sure still how to pronounce your name, but UMAMRCH. Anyway, you said, and how you all know how many years it's been there, LOL. Well, there's no way of knowing. I don't know. What are you talking about? The actual, are we still on the pyramid? Are we still on the Black Knight? What are we on? I'm curious. Now, John Jay, if you're talking about the actual pyramids, like John Jay saying, carbon dating, but see, this is something, again, you'd have to get down to, if we're talking about the pyramids, get down and see the actual material. That's what I want to say. You know, we can say, oh, they found these things, and they do look legit, meaning there is columns. There's no doubt. Are they stone? Are they just like, giant vines wrapped around them? Or are they copper? Are they wire? We don't know. You know, every time something new like this comes out, everybody freaks. Well, let's give them time. Let's let them get down there and let's find out what's going on and see what this stuff is really made out of. The Radical Squadron said, do you think that there'll ever be like a full-blown kit car from Knight Rider? Well, we kind of do. You got Teslas, although we don't have the on the front and everything. But we will have talking cars. They would just be kind of like Kit, right? I mean, hell, the talking cars came back from, they were from the 1980s, late 70s, early 80s. I remember several cars you would literally, like the Subarus back in the day, we hear, boom, boom, your door is ajar. I mean, it literally did all kinds of crazy, check oil level. Rico, you said, I'm scared that when there's sentient AI, and they begin to build other sentient systems like the Westworld. Yeah, I mean, well, they're trying to put in this kind of like, we'll use them safety kind of precautions, right? Like if they get too out of hand, to just shut them down. What was it they just did an experiment on, which is crazy. It's like these AI is like all about self-preservation. You guys read about this where they had a guy, they said what they're going to do is they're going to make this up, right? So the guy got on the end, he was acting like he's cheating on his wife. He was like, yeah, I'll see you later on. My wife won't know, blah, 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 blah. So one day they said, oh, okay. So then he said, what we're going to try to do is unplug this thing now and shut it down and see what happens. So they went to go shut it down, and it literally came on the screen and said, if you shut me down, I'm going to tell your wife about this other woman. And I forget what the woman's name was. I went, are you serious right now? The thing's ready to blackmail and rat his ass out. And this is AI. That's crazy to me. It literally just blackmailed him. Zook, she said the Sphinx has water erosion on the lower sides, and the last time the Sahara and Egypt had water and was tropical was 12,000 years. Well, they're talking about that, the last ice age. It was like 12,900 years ago. So there's a lot of things that changed right after that point, right? The Dryas kind of era kind of thing. There was so many things that happened prior or during that time and then after that. So, well, you got to remember too, you got the Nile, you got different, I think there's like 3 rivers go into one. And it could have been a lot bigger back then in the day. And they said that, obviously it was like flourishing. That whole area was like greenery and everything else. And now it's, pretty much a desert in a sense compared to what it used to look like. The Radical Squadron, you said, remember the real... Yep, I do remember that. Real Steel, the film is not too far from reality. I think you're right on that. Ricardo, you said, I think the Sphinx is way older than 12,000 years old, probably 36, at least 2.5 processional cycles back. And I think so too. They've been saying this for a long time now. That's why I said they believe that the Egyptians found these pyramids, and of course, then they said, "Well, that's ours now," and stuff like that. And then they lived there and built around it and everything else. And they tried to simulate. This is the reason why they have these step pyramids and everything else, and totally failed on trying to build it like those. And there's a lot of those. What was it? The Red Pyramid. There's a lot of different pyramids where they were trying to do the angles and and they kind of screwed up. They didn't do it right, and so it's almost like those were there prior to them, and they try to simulate what those were, and they couldn't. John Jay said, once on the internet and the cloud, how can they ever be shut down? Just shut down the servers. That's all. Shut the servers down. Unless, of course, they try to turn it back on and do something else. But yeah. But if they truly are intelligent, they know that the humans built their prototypes before full sentience. Right. So they'll have safeguards in place, I'm sure of it. Of course, it doesn't always work, but that's what they're going to do. And probably have multiple safeguards. So if they try to do that, it'll literally either implode itself or eat itself to death. One of the two is going to happen. James, that's funny. Hawass. Yeah, 100%. They need to dig a hole and bury him in it. June Boussier, you said, I believe AI is a lazy way to go. Well, here's the thing. This is what's wild. One day, I ran into my old neighbor, and his daughter was saying, "Oh my God, it's the worst thing ever, this, that, and the other." I said, I don't see how it is. Depending on how you program it. Like if you ask it, once this thing, it improves on itself, it gets better and better. Of course, you got these safeguards in place, like I said, and it's there simply to help human race. For example, how can we go about feeding more people and still keeping most real food? In other words, without making, genetically formed or changing food, making it just garbage food, right? Is it possible? How can we do that? Or how can we build another engine other than plasma, so on and so forth, to reach the stars? How can we do this? And it will calculate everything you put into it, because obviously any computer is as smart as you put into it. However, AI is self-learning, and it can do this. It can run calculations like the supercomputers, the quantum ones. They said something that would take a supercomputer to take a year to solve, it can do it within 15, 20 seconds to a minute. So if you were to ask it, what is the best way to go from here to Mars? What's the best propulsion? And it says, well, you can do this, you can build that, and this would help. I think it can actually help the human race as opposed to hinder it. And of course, it depends on how you're using it. It's kind of like when you bring up a pit bull. You can bring it up to be as friendly as possible, or you can bring it up to be a complete waste of flesh, like the owner would be. You know what I mean? It depends on how you bring it up. And it's the same thing with what you put in is what you get out. So if you put into this thing and it's to solve the world's problems, which I'm sure they have done already a million times over since they built these super quantum computers, then they will get the answers they need, and it'll help with the equations and help get stuff done and stuff like that. I think it's a win-win, provided doesn't go haywire on us. John Jay, you said, yeah, so we're worth saving. I think so. Jason, you said Hawass, gatekeeper. No, I think he's a hindrance. He needs to be shoved off a cliff. Ricardo, second that, James. Zooks, the only four-headed river system in the world is in the Georgia, Florida region. Yeah, but I mean, like in Egypt, I think there's three of them. The Nile and two others. Oh, hell, this thing just jumped on me. William Kennedy Jr., hello, Chris, and all yard work better late than never. I say, especially if it's super hot out, I would too. Oh, let me see. Let me change this up. Show you guys a moon photo I've got. I did this one a while back. And when you look at this photo, you see some crazy things in here. Change the background a little bit. Okay. Well, I truly think that the Sphinx is well and truly seen many a moon, and that's for sure. James said, well, yeah. You know, again, they're even saying that the Sphinx may be much older than the pyramids. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't think we know the exact answer to everything, but they're trying to date everything the best that they can. Like we were talking about earlier, water erosion. You know, obviously there was a water level. They said it was at one time it was well over the actual Sphinx and the pyramids. So it's hard to tell what was the deal with that, right? Let me see. There we go. I forgot to turn that on. My bad. But yeah, I mean, again, we're always looking and pushing the numbers. We're trying to figure out where we came from, how long we've been here, what are the civilizations were here prior, and again, they would be more than no. As far as anything found in Antarctica, there may be something else other than us, and just crazy stuff. Well, Anchor Point, of course he's going to say that. I do not believe in radar technology. Zawi Hawass. Yeah, he's an idiot. It's like, oh, God, I hope they don't find out. Maybe he knows something we don't. Or he just doesn't want everybody ripping apart the whole plateau over there, right? But it's like, I think if it's going to help civilization somehow in some form, or just get to know the history, why not? I mean, as long as you're not completely killing them, wiping out the whole area there. Carnival Carnies, Carnival folk. Oh, yeah. I think this photos here is pretty wild. When you look at it, you can see what looks like there's two spheres here. I've done this video a while back. There's one here, it's like over a platform. And there's one over here, not too clear, right there. And there's one right here. You see, they're right off there's actually two spheres right there. And what look like these other structures. What look like these things are on platforms, and they're not craters. I said this before. This area here. If you look at a lot of these discs, you can see something very large on them. If that was an actual crater, whatever's in the center, you look at it, it's quite large. It's almost taking up the whole platform. Clearly, this crater would be so much larger, or you see so much ejecta around it and you don't see that. Anchor Point, you said Egypt is connected to the moon and Mars. Call me crazy. No, you're not. Because, like I said, they found what looks like pyramids on Mars. They found, well, obviously the face. They've, and of course, if you look at two, I'm not sure if you can, I think there's only one photo I've seen that was like that. But when you look at the Great Pyramid and everything else, it's 8-sided, not 4. That's what a lot of people don't get. And when I first learned it, I said, that's craziness. I went, how did they figure this? I see 4. Oh, okay. And when they showed it from above during sun angle, there's actually 8 sides to that pyramid. I went, that's craziness. Third Eye Open, you said humans with our fake lines of Okay, I got you. Who the heck is Hawass to keep anything from the rest of the world? Like I said, greed and corruption. The truth of pyramids belongs to the people, to all the people. And I agree. It's, again, I understand if you're like the person that keeps an eye on the whole area. I get it. You don't want just people going haphazardly tearing the whole darn area apart. And I get that. So it's got to be controlled as far as how they dig down, or obviously radar and stuff like that, and lidar is not going to harm anything, but they're going to want to dig. That's a fact. So I kind of get that. So I see where he can be a help, but he's also a hindrance. So, and people want to respect the burials that are around the actual pyramids and stuff like that too, right? The Radical Squadron. He said, remember Richard C. Hoagland in his presentation of Cydonia face up. Yep, 100%. Like I said, I was on with him a couple times. We were going back and forth. And, of course, we had others on there as well. We had UFO, United Family of Anomaly Hunters, what it's called. We had a bunch of us on there. Had all kinds of technical issues when we started showing our own pictures of Mars and the moon and everything else, and got all jacked up. His servers were completely screwed up and everything else. And, but yeah, I mean, he was at the forefront, trying to get the stuff disclosed and everything else, right? John Shea, he said they link up in lines around the world. I think you're talking about the pyramids. And if you are, you're right. Because if you look at the equatorial region, there's a lot of pyramids all around the equatorial region. And you're like, what? And I didn't believe that at first, I'll be honest with you. And this was years ago I learned this. And I looked and I said, I'll be damned. You look at that crap, and it's like all the way around. It's almost like a communication link all the way around the world. James, you said, Chris, center top of the pic at the start. You mean when we were back here at the left? Center top of the pic. I don't know if you're talking about this or want to have it the other way. Jim Woolston, what's happening? He's happy hump day, buddy. What's going on, Jim? Good to see you in there. And John Shea said, nope, the Pentagon network, but you could also be right, Chris. And that little sphere right over that square platform. Other platforms with other structures, what looks like structures on there. Of course, some of these are really hard to see. You've got this one here. You see that one's there, but you see what they try to put. You can see like a manipulation over the whole thing, but it's all over this moon, folks. It's crazy. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Minimize this right to here. And just look at the lower half of this photo, folks. Come on. Some of these things are just in spots. And like I said, you got hovering spheres over platforms. No way, no how. Is this just natural? All of these in the bottom here. Platforms. One way over here. On the very right. You can actually see there's a line right there. it's circular. You can actually see it's outlining a circular platform. Something here right in the middle. Not sure what that is. So I'm going to minimize this to right about there. And just this whole, from the halfway down, all the way down, just look this photo over. It's crazy. And if you're on a small device, get out a magnifying glass. Doug Kershaw, yes, it is the moon. Absolutely. Yeah, the Radical Squad, said, what about the SpaceX rocket that hit the moon near Einstein's crater? Did you, yeah, did you see that, what they were talking about, though? They were saying how some of them didn't even see the impact. I'm going, well, probably a little hard to see that. But, you know, they did show, I think one or two of them I saw where you actually can see a little bit of a plume, like you can actually see it impact. I'm like, I don't know how people can even see that. I mean, you can if you got a really good telescope. But, you know, they said it was supposed to crash into it anyway because the way it was orbiting and everything else. So at some point it was going to crash into the moon, or they're going to try to make sure they crashed it into the moon again. But why the moon? Why don't you just let it come down in the ocean here? Because I don't remember what their reasoning was. I know it was like way out. It started going way out towards the moon. So I guess they figured just let it crash into the moon. But a little wild because they've done that before with the Apollo missions and with different stages of the rocket, and it would crash it purposely into the moon. For what reason? Well, let's see. They brought seismometers up there when the Apollo missions are there, and if they're still working at all, then they can still register it. Any kind of moonquakes, if you will, or ringing like a bell. Oh, okay, James, I got you. You said, Chris, there's a huge amount of structures in front of me, man. Unreal. I was talking about the far back center of the picture, pyramid structure, big time. You can see some of them in the back here. Yeah, they're all, this is crazy. And again, all the way down here, sitting right on top, and they're right connected to each other on the very, almost the very bottom of this photo, right in here. And again, with the white, anything they try to, it's almost like it's programmed. Anything that's got a whitened surface, like super brighten it, and that's what they do to it. It's crazy. So you have to literally try to bring it down. Yeah, that's not normal, nor natural. Anchor Point, a completely apparently functioning city on the moon, stretching for miles. Yeah, this, I'd love to be able to go there and see this stuff for myself. That'd be wild as hell. Oops. Get rid of that. John Jay said Mars anomalies and beyond, lunar anomalies and beyond, Antarctica and its hidden secrets, Sarah Michaels' theorem. Absolutely. Check out those other channels, Antarctica and its hidden secrets. Lunar anomalies as well, like I was saying earlier. The Radical Squadron, you said Project A119, also known as A Study of the Lunar Research Flights, was a top-secret plan developed in 1958 by the United States Air Force. The aim of the project was to detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. And, you know, it's almost like they knew this stuff. So it makes you wonder, and I don't know if you know this, but the reason why, just what you wrote is why they would do that. But it makes you wonder if they saw things on the surface, and again, they're not as smart as they are today. They see these structures. Let's say this photo right here, they just happen to look up and they see what look like these structures and these spheres over these platforms, everything. Did you think, one, to me, the only way I would see them put any kind of nuclear bomb or atomic or anything, is to destroy what they see. Maybe they were afraid. What happens if these things, whatever's occupying this, comes and gets us, kind of thing? Is that possible? Because there would be no other reason to do that other than try to blow something up, at least back then. I just don't see what the point would be to do that, especially if they've seen things like this on the moon. J. Bob, yeah, if you're right, you can only imagine what's on the far side. Well, the funny thing about it is I think I've done 1 or 2 videos of that on the other side of the moon, and there are some crazy what looks like structures and cities and stuff like that. The Radical Squadron, and young Carl Sagan was part of the team. Absolutely. He knew. Come on. Like I said, you're not going to be an astrophysicist and not know this stuff. You're going to be in the know if you're not firsthand. Douglas Kershaw, they wanted to destroy Ingo Swan's friends on the moon. There you go. Headphones make my ears itchy. Oh, yeah. Let me see what else we got here. Like that there for a second. This was actually pretty funny, too, when we were talking about, remember I said, like UFOs back in the day, they always look clunky. Now, I don't know if you folks have seen these Nazi photos going around because they were, building what looked like spacecraft and everything else. Like this here. Again, clunky, if this is real at all. Look like crudely built ships, right? Now, we can get into the Hannibal, we can get all of these crazy spacecraft or the craft that they built, but they look clunky. Again, if they were to perfect anti-gravitics, they could put it in a cardboard box as long as they can get it to fly. That's the whole point. So they probably built a frame and said, just put something together, and as long as, we can just fly around with this thing, we'll be fine. Of course, they weren't trying to make a secret out of it because they actually had the Nazi sign and stuff like that right on the side of the Don Craft. This, to me, is crazy. If they did have it, then they were crude back then. And maybe we are too, meaning almost every country in the world probably messed around with anti-gravitics because scientists will talk and everything else. And, and every country's probably got one of these now in their own version. Oh. Let me see here. Here. Get rid of that. Oops. Right here. Hannibal test flight, Nazi Germany, 1939. Kind of a piss poor photo, but you can see this. Again, always that saucer form, clunky looking thing. James Cragen, he said, Chris, they look like pyramids of the sun structures, man, and the right load of satellite dish looking ones. Yeah, I mean it's weird because they actually do look like these kind of weird like dishes kind of thing, and then you've got what looks like just structures on it. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to really see it because, again, you weren't really supposed to see these things at any kind of clarity at all. But nonetheless, we can try to see it. Vertigus third. This was way over my coworkers and friends' heads. Oh yeah, because the average person doesn't care and is not interested in knowing. They're just like, what about it? It's just stupid. Okay. Danny Tree, hot as nails. What's going on? Good to have you in there. Oh, I'm an alien from Planet 25. Interesting. What kind of music you guys listen to? Just curious. Ricardo, yeah, I've seen the Nazi UFO pics before. Evolution of reverse engineering alien tech. Well, this is what I'm saying. It's almost like if we were reverse engineering these things, then we're not going to probably have the materials they did to build their craft. So we're going to build anything we can. And if we did reverse engineer these anti-gravitics kind of things, their propulsion, then they'll have that inside these clunky things. It's like a Model A compared to the Tic Tac. You know what I mean? It's a huge difference. But yeah, crazy. I heard of it, Ricardo. Well, of course, I've never read it or anything. Ricardo, you said if you want to deep dive into Nazi UFO tech, read Joseph P. Farrell's book, Reich of the Black Sun. I've heard of it. Like I said, I've never read it, of course, but Ricardo, you said, can't find any truth in it, but I think von Braun had blueprints for a space shuttle back in the 1936. Yep. Trying to remember what was the one that they had, Ricardo? It was in Kakistan. Remember they had their own automated flight one, shuttle, looked very similar to ours. And it's still there to this day. There's like 2 or 3 of them. Eric V said, I'm glad YouTube put you back into my algorithm. Good to see you again. Good to have you back in there. Like I said, I always tell people, make sure you're still subscribed. And when you get in there, click or tick the box that says notify all. Because I don't know how many people said, dude, I didn't even know you were on it. I didn't even get a notification. Well, they're doing that for a reason. Jason Motorhead McVie said possibly Nazi bases in Antarctica, maybe even the Hollow Earth. Well, there's been speculation about that. Yeah, 100%. And they were saying that they were up there before in Antarctica, back in the 40s, was it? Was it the 30s or 40s? They were there looking for like alien tech kind of thing. So this is what I don't get. How do these people know that? Like it could be there. Now, I understand they're probably saying, well, it's probably the only place that hasn't been, really traveled a lot. So maybe there's something up there. And they knew maybe at one time there's a warmer environment there and decided to, go there and say, let's try to find it ourselves. And of course, he was always Hollow Earth thing. I mean, if you think about it, they were all about that. Ancient civilizations. They were wondering how if you look at the Mahabharata, when they were talking about, Mercury spinning in a certain way, magnetism with it, so on and so forth. You can get anti-gravity. He was all about that, man. Just wanted to know everything he could. Dawn has Brogan. Good to see you in there. Nice to see you in there, Dawn. Jason McVie said Operation High Jump. Yeah, that was in Antarctica, exactly. But even before then, I think they were up there and they were just doing. Everybody's all over that damn continent, and it's just wild. Third Eye Open, I believe it was before. Your question was, did they go before or after Admiral Byrd flew over? I think it was before that. I could be wrong, but I believe that. I've seen that Radical Squadron. The film Iron Skies was so crazy yet so funny. Yep. Good to see you too, they don't. Ricardo, he said, I believe Baird helped a German Antarctic expedition back in 1934 before the Second World War. Then was later sent to check on them. Operation High Jump. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So it was prior to that because I knew it was in the 30s or the 40s or mid 30s anyway. Ricardo, 147 hours, way past my bedtime for me. Well, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be like jumping off this thing too. Man, it's amazing how fast time goes by, guys. It's crazy when you stop and think about it. What was I going to put on here? Let's see. Not that. Where are you? I can hear you. Oh, there you are. Come on. You can come up? Come on. Come on. They can hear you. Come on. Can we get up there? Come on. Well, come on. Guys, I swear that cat was a dog in its previous life. Literally brings me pieces of paper. And I'll throw it and she'll fetch it. There she goes. Just ran after it. She'll literally, I'm in the living room. She'll come over. I'll throw it. She'll come bring it back, drop it right at my feet. She just wants to play. She'll literally bat it at you and everything else. Yeah, Dawn, you got to get in there sooner. I always catch her at the end. Dang it. Yep. There she is. Just brought it back. There you go. Ready? Oh, I love my cat. She's awesome. Yeah, Ricardo. Yep, when you're having fun. You bring it back? Good girl. Yep. Let's see. Radical Squadron, you said today is the anniversary of the Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump commenced 26th of August, 1946. That sounds about right. We do have cat treats, but they're not called Dreamies. They got other things that are similar to that, though. What do you do with it? What do you do with your toy? What do you do with it? Come on. Yeah, they got something very similar to that. It's pretty cool. Eat that stuff right up. We started about 5:40 roughly, Dawn, Eastern time. Britta gets the third. Chariot to the gods. Come on. You can get up there. Oh, yeah. Just going to say goodbye to you guys. What's that? William found another one for the books. Good night and good kitty. Now she's looking right at the camera. Oh, man, you hear that purring? What was that? What was that? That you? All right, folks. We're going to shut this bad boy down. Another great hangout. You guys are awesome. Much love to every one of you folks. Thank you for the support. You're awesome. Like I said, we're going to try to do this again, folks. We're going to try to get in there all the time for around 5:30, 5:40 Eastern time, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. mark it down. And like I said, when you're going out, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And like I said, drop your comments down below. Again, if you want something suggested to talk about, we can do that. Whatever you guys want to do. I don't care if it's talking about audio equipment. I don't care if it's talking about cars. I don't care if it's talking about whatever you want to talk about. I'm down with anything. So, just to hang out with you folks, it's definitely breaks up like I said, the monotony. It's just awesome. Let me see. James, you said Chris, Ricardo, and all of the truth seekers. Y'all take care. We'll talk soon. Top of the range. Oh, and you said, well, good night. I'll start over. Getting into the shower. Ricardo, you said, great to be here. Great to see you again there, brother. And you have a good night there, right? I know it's late for you, so I understand. Let me see. Here we go. I was wondering what this thing was doing. Oops. James, yes, it is definitely good to have you back. We were thinking, it's like, where did he go? I know he'll jump in here at some point. And Ricardo was like, yeah, we'll get him in here some way. So we're glad to see you. Like Ricardo said, James, buddy, stay in touch. The Discord is still open for chat. As always, it is. Yes, it is. I need to get on there too, Ricardo, because it's like I was going to get on there. Hell, how long has it been? Good 2-3 years at least, and no less. So I definitely got to try to get on there and try to link some of these at the same time. We can do that. Or just get on there. Try to broaden it up a little bit. So we're going to try to do that. We're going to figure a way here. It's not like I do multi-level ones or multi-social sites at the same time, but I'm going to do that. We're going to see what we can do. But anyway, folks, Clerk Maxwell said from Boring, Oregon here. Oh, don't worry about it. Nothing's boring. We always have a good time here anyway. So it doesn't matter where you're from. All right, folks. Like I said, much love to you all. Great hangout as always. Good chat. Everybody's chatting it up, which I like. I like to see you guys talk, and it's like a little place to hang out. It's like what we call it? Like a virtual lounge, if you will. We like to get in there and chit-chat and have a good time. So, again, another good one. Anyway, folks, thank you again. You guys are awesome. Much love to you guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.